Proportional representation vote results redraw House of Representatives landscape. RSP emerged as the largest party. Rashtriya Swatantra Party begins intensive internal consultations to chart course after sweeping election victory. UN General Assembly adopts Nepal proposed resolution to establish Global International Day of Well-being. Nepal Airlines to operate special late-night flight to rescue stranded passengers in Dubai beginning today. 3 commercial ships damaged by projectiles in Strait of Hormuz amid escalating Middle East conflict. And 7 members of Iranian women's football team granted protection visas after tournament in Australia. Good evening, I am Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere it's 13:15 in London, 20 to 15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. Vote counting under Nepal's proportional representation system in the recent House of Representatives election has now been completed, marking a significant shift in the country's political landscape. The Election Commission confirmed the final results after vote tallying concluded in the remaining constituencies of Gorkha 1 and Ilham 1. According to the Commission, more than 10.8 million votes were counted under proportional representation system. Rashtriya Swatantra Party has emerged as the largest force, securing 57 seats, a major increase from the previous election. Nepali Congress remains second largest party despite a decline in seats, while CPN-UML, which topped the proportional vote in the previous election, has dropped to third position with 16 seats. Madhesh-based Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal and Janamat Party failed to cross the electoral threshold and will not be represented in the parliament. A new entrant, Shram Sanskriti Party, has secured representation and emerged as the 5th largest party. With the vote count completed, the Election Commission says preparations are now underway to finalize the allocation of proportional seats among political parties in the federal parliament. Rashtriya Swatantra Party is on course for a near 2/3 majority in Nepal's House of Representatives as vote counting concludes. With 125 direct seats and about 58 expected under proportional representation, the party faces a key constitutional requirement, nominating mostly women to maintain the mandatory 33% female representation in parliament. Sabika Shrestha reports.
Swatantra Party, the agent of the sweeping mandate, will not only have the burden of steering the country ahead, but the party's women lawmakers will also have to be the flag bearer in their gender in policy making. The party has secured 125 seats under the first past the post system, in which 13 are women candidates. Under Nepal's constitution, every party must ensure at least 33% combined women representation in 2 houses of federal parliament. Interestingly, the party with almost 2/3 majority in the lower house will have no representation in the National Assembly. This means RSP will have to manage all the mandatory numbers of inclusive and proportional representation from within the House of Representatives. As per the projection, RSP will have 58 seats under the PR system, making it a collective strength of 183 in the lower house. Since only 13 of the 183 possible House of Representatives members of the party are women, the party will have to nominate women candidates in 48 of the 58 PR seats to maintain the 33% women representation criteria. In that case, RSP will have altogether 61 women lawmakers in the lower house of parliament. Moreover, the selected women candidates must meet the cluster-based distribution mandated by the law provision to ensure both gender balance and social inclusion.
There should be certainty of 33% women's representation in the federal parliament. At least 50% women candidates from each and every cluster have been ensured, or we have collected 50% women candidates. So out of 50%, they can ensure 33% women representation. They should respect the inclusion clusters. For example, women, 33% women, then accordingly Dalits, Janajatis, backward region.
Nepal's Election Commission has said the number of invalid ballots has increased in the recent lower house election despite extensive voter education campaigns. According to the Commission, around 5.42% of votes cast in the election were declared invalid. This is slightly higher than the 5.18% recorded in 2022 parliamentary election. Authorities say voter education programs were conducted across local governments, including mobilizing community health volunteers to raise awareness on the voting process. However, the figures suggest the campaigns were not fully effective. Madhya province recorded the highest rate of invalid ballots, this time rising to nearly 10%. In contrast, Manang district reported the lowest rate at just over 1%. Experts say reducing invalid ballots is important to ensure voters' choices are properly reflected in election results. Nepal's Election Commission says thousands of candidates who contested under the first-past-the-post system in the recent parliamentary election have lost their security deposits. According to the Commission, 2,890 candidates failed to secure minimum vote threshold required to retain their deposits. Among them, 350 candidates did not receive a single vote. Under Nepal's election law, candidates must secure at least 10% of the total valid votes cast in their constituency to reclaim their deposit. Only 516 candidates met that requirement. Several prominent figures were also unable to retain their deposits, including former ministers and former provincial leaders from major parties. The Election Commission says deposits from candidates who fail to meet the threshold are transferred to the state treasury. Rashtriya Swatantra Party has stepped up internal consultations as it prepares for the next phase, following its sweeping performance in the parliamentary election. With the electoral equation now largely clear, senior leaders have begun intensive meetings to outline the party's priorities and strategy for government formation. Party's chair Ravi Lamichhane and Prime Ministerial candidate Balendra Shah held an intensive meeting at the party's headquarters in Kathmandu today. Discussions focused on governance priorities, parliamentary strategy and the party's policy agenda. RSP is on track to dominate the House of Representatives after securing a near majority votes. We're going for a short break here. More news coming up. Stay with us. You're watching NTV World and this is Prime Time News. Welcome back. Migrant workers from Nepal's Kailali district who returned home to vote in the recent parliamentary elections are now heading back to India. Following the completion of voting on March 5, large numbers of people have begun crossing border points in Surat Pasim province for work and medical treatment. Many Nepali citizens who have long been employed in India had returned to their villages specifically to exercise their voting rights. Others receiving medical care across the border also came home to cast their ballots. Authorities say there is now a steady flow of returnees, in fact, at several border crossings, although some travellers have reported difficulties due to missing travel documents. Voters are urging the next government to create employment opportunities at home and improve access to affordable healthcare. Nepal's Supreme Court has ordered a full hearing on a petition challenging the Attorney General's decision to amend charge sheets filed against Rashtriya Swatantra Party Chair Ravi Lamichhane. A joint bench of Justices Sapana Pradhan Malla and Shrikant Podal set the hearing for April 13. The petition was filed by senior advocate Dinesh Tripathi and others after the Attorney General decided to revise the charge sheets in cases registered in Kaski, Kathmandu, Rupandehi and Parsa, removing charges related to organized crime and money laundering. The petition argues that withdrawing such charges violates legal provisions and could undermine accountability in serious financial crime cases. Nepal's Education Ministry has said more than 28,000 students have received approval to pursue studies abroad during the first 3 months of the ongoing fiscal year. According to official data, 28,585 students obtained no objection certificates between mid-July and mid-October. Japan was the most popular destination, followed by Australia and the United Kingdom. Last fiscal year, more than 123,000 Nepali students received permission to study in 84 different countries. Management studies remain the most popular field, with information technology, science and hospitality also among the top choices. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted a resolution proposed by Nepal to mark an International Day of Well-being. The resolution designates April 15 to be observed globally each year. According to Nepal's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Lok Bahadur Thapa, the initiative promotes a broader understanding of health, not only the absence of disease, but overall physical, mental, social, cultural, emotional and environmental well-being. The resolution also encourages preventive health care, healthy lifestyles and inclusive health systems as part of efforts to build resilient and sustainable societies worldwide. Nepal Airlines says it will operate a special rescue flight to Dubai tonight to assist passengers stranded at the airport amid regional tensions. According to the national carrier, the wide-body aircraft will depart Kathmandu at around 11:15 p.m., carrying passengers who had been unable to travel earlier. The same aircraft will then bring back stranded Nepali passengers from Dubai, arriving in Kathmandu early Thursday morning. Nepal Airlines says around 270 to 280 passengers are expected to travel on the outbound flight. International news coming up next. For now, a short break. Tensions across the Middle East continue to escalate with a series of military and security developments across the region. 3 commercial vessels near the Strait of Hormuz have been damaged by what authorities describe as unknown projectiles. with rescue operations underway for crew members aboard one of the ships. The United States military says it has destroyed 16 Iranian vessels suspected of laying naval mines in the strategic shipping corridor. Meanwhile, Israel, in fact, has launched new strikes in Iran and Lebanon, including an attack on a residential building in central Beirut. Iran has also reportedly fired missiles towards Israel, triggering the country's air defense systems. Elsewhere, drones fell near Dubai airport, injuring 4 people, while Saudi Arabia says it intercepted missiles and drones targeting military bases and oil infrastructure. Iran's ambassador to the United Nations has accused the US and Israel of targeting civilian infrastructure during recent military strikes. Speaking to reporters in New York, Ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani said airstrikes hit fuel storage facilities and other sites in Tehran and several cities, releasing hazardous pollutants into the atmosphere.
Regrettable that Security Council continues to remain silent. The Council is turning a blind eye to this grave violation despite its primary responsibility under the UN Charter to maintain international peace and security. Instead, some Council members are attempting to reverse the roles and position of victims and aggressors.
Israeli strikes and evacuation orders have forced more than 100,000 people to flee their homes in Lebanon within a single day, the UN has said. The figure is part of a larger displacement of 700,000 people across the country in just over a week amid escalating conflict in the Middle East. Carolina Lindholm-Billing, UNHCR's Lebanon representative, told a press briefing in Geneva that lives have been upended on a massive scale.
That lives have been upended on a massive scale. I mean, according to the Lebanese authorities, as of today, more than 667,000 people in Lebanon have now registered on the government's online platform as displaced. And this is an increase of 100,000 in just one day, and the numbers continue to rise.
India says there is no shortage of energy supplies despite rising tensions in West Asia. The government says oil and gas imports continue to arrive smoothly through multiple sources and supply routes. Authorities say domestic consumers are receiving their full requirements of compressed and piped natural gas, while industries are being supplied between 70% and 80% of their needs. Officials have also urged citizens not to panic over energy availability. Dan Jorgensen, the European Union's energy chief, has urged member states to consider lowering taxes on electricity to help reduce consumer energy bills. Speaking at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, he said there is huge potential to ease costs if governments are able to cut energy taxes.
We have a very clear recommendation to the member states. If you are at all able to lower taxes on energy, especially on electricity, there is a huge potential. In average, the potential for energy bills in Europe would be a saving of 200 euros per year by lowering the taxes.
Jorgensen's comments come as global oil and gas prices rise due to tensions and conflict in the Middle East, raising concerns about higher energy bills across European Union countries. We're going for another break here. More international news and sports update lined up next. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said Europe's move away from nuclear power was a strategic mistake, as rising oil prices and tensions in the Middle East renew concerns over the region's energy security. Speaking at a nuclear energy summit in Paris, von der Leyen said the European Union would support investment in innovative nuclear technologies, including small modular reactors. She said Europe remains heavily dependent on imported fossil fuels, leaving the region vulnerable to global crises, such as the current tensions affecting energy supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. Von der Leyen added that the EU is preparing new energy plans that will include financial support aimed at accelerating nuclear technology development and strengthening Europe's long-term energy independence. China has concluded the fourth session of the 14th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, the country's top political advisory body. Delegates approved several key resolutions, including the work report of the CPPCC Standing Committee and reports on the handling and review of proposals submitted by political advisors. CPPCC Chairperson Wang Huning presided over the session and addressed the gathering. The body plays a central role in China's system of political consultation and multi-party cooperation under the leadership of the Communist Party. Thailand has welcomed the ranking of Bangkok as the top city in Asia for 2026, reinforcing the country's position as a major global tourism destination. The Thai capital secured the #1 spot in the Best Cities in Asia category of the Destin Asian Readers' Choice Awards, ahead of Tokyo and Singapore. The travel magazine cited Bangkok's unique blend of cultural heritage and modern urban life as key factors behind the ranking. Historic temples, luxury shopping malls, vibrant nightlife, and a globally recognized food scene all contribute to the city's appeal. Officials say the recognition highlights Bangkok's diverse travel experiences and the country's reputation for hospitality, often described as the land of smiles. And with that, we move on to Sports Update. Nepal will begin its campaign under SAF Under-20 Championship against Bhutan on March 23rd. According to fixtures released by the South Asian Football Federation, the tournament will be held in Mali, the capital of Maldives, from March 23rd to April 3rd. Nepal, the defending runners-up, are placed in Group A alongside hosts Maldives, Sri Lanka and Bhutan. Nepal will face Sri Lanka on March 25th and conclude the group stage against Maldives on the 27th. Australia's Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke has confirmed that 7 members of the Iranian women's football team delegation have been granted protection visas in the country. Authorities say the remaining members of the delegation chose to return home after each was individually offered refuge before departing Australia. The situation has drawn international attention after some players declined to sing Iran's national anthem ahead of a televised match during their visit. The move was widely seen as a gesture of protest, highlighting the pressures faced by athletes representing Iran on the global stage. Before we wrap up this bulletin, let's have a look at the top stories once again. Proportional representation vote results redraw House of Representatives landscape. RSP emerges as the largest party. Supreme Court orders full hearing on petition challenging charge sheet amendments in RSP chairperson case. UN General Assembly adopts Nepal proposed resolution to establish Global International Day of Well-being. Nepal Airlines to operate special late-night flight to rescue stranded passengers in Dubai beginning today. 3 commercial ships damaged by projectiles in Strait of Hormuz amid escalating Middle East conflict. And 7 members of Iranian women's football team granted protection visas after tournament in Australia. And that is all for the moment here on NTV World Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and also get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries.
Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the weekly current affairs program. Here we pick the major news of the week, unpack its significance and examine how today's decisions shape tomorrow's direction. This week's episode focuses on key developments surrounding Nepal's recently concluded House of Representatives elections. Early results point to a historic surge for the Rashtriya Swatantra Party led by Balendra Shah, potentially paving the way for a rare parliamentary majority and a major shift in the country's political landscape. The program also covers the submission of the Judicial Commission's report on the September 8-9 protests, the party's reform-focused manifesto, early voting trends and the visible participation of first-time young voters. Despite largely peaceful polling observed by election monitors, voter turnout has been recorded as historically low this time. We look into all these details in this episode. 3-term extensions and finally the report held until the completion of the March 5 House of Representatives election. The Judicial Commission formed to investigate the 2 days of protests in September 8 and 9 has submitted its report. Though the report has not been made public, the recommendations and findings are being eagerly awaited by the public. With the elections results favoring a sweeping change in the governance, the implementation of the report will be a litmus test for the upcoming government, which seems to be certainly backed by a 2/3 of the majority. Devendra Subedi brings more.
The Judicial Commission formed to investigate the protests and vandalism on September 8th and 9th has submitted its report. Interestingly, within hours of the completion of the March 5 House of Representatives elections, it's a clear indication that Prime Minister Susila Karki withheld the report before the election, sensing that it could spoil the environment for peaceful conclusion of the elections. What the report has suggested will only be public once the report goes into implementation, and hopefully it does get implemented, unlike in the past. Reports of some high-level commissions are still in the cells, which might have even been burnt to ashes in the arson inside Singha Darbar on the 9th of September. The former Justice Gauri Bahadur Karki-led commission, whose mandate was extended twice and the report kept in hold until the election, will be key to whether the new government, most likely formed by a new party, will really dare to act as per its promises. Though Prime Minister Karki committed to implement the report, the onus will be on the most probably 2/3 majority-backed upcoming government.
सिंहै यो वादीले यो भन्यो प्रतिवादीले यो भन्यो फलानले यो भन्यो फलानले बयान गर्यो त्यो त रिलिज हुँदैन निचोड के छ केही कुराहरू चाहिँ आउने हो त्यसैले फेरि पनि म एकदम धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु बहुत दुःख गरेर बहुत श्रम गरेर दिनैजनाले एकदम ठुलो एउटा चाहिँ उहाँहरूले मेहनत परिश्रम गरेर गर्नुभएको हो अन्य त्यो आयोगका अन्य जो सहयोग गर्नेहरू हुनुहुन्छ अफिसरहरू सचिवज्यूहरू उहाँहरूलाई पनि म धन्यवाद दिँदै यति नै भन्दछु.
Some of the key figures, including former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak, and some key figures in the security agency as well as bureaucracy, might even be indicted in the report. The challenge will be of the new government to make people believe that things have really changed in Nepal as per the expectation of seeing the report being implemented. Commission Chair Karki, in a brief summary, concluded that the youth-led movement was largely driven by widespread frustration over poor governance and corruption in state institutions. The statement of Karki was not a hidden truth, but the finding is what the general public are looking forward to know and see the implementation of the report.
Rashtriya Swatantra Party is poised to form a historic majority government in Nepal following a landslide election victory. As the last remaining election results continue to pour in, the mandate has clearly granted the relatively new party chance to govern the country independently. Despite this power shift away from the earlier established political parties, the road ahead is not going to be easy as it seems. Here's a report. Established just 4 years ago, Nepal's Rashtriya Swatantra Party (RSP) is nearing an overwhelming two-third majority in the House of Representatives. The people in the March 5 election have shown their faith in the new party that has been championing good governance and anti-corruption crusade in the country. However, despite the clear majority, which in fact could exceed the magic figure of two-thirds in the lower house, experts suggest that the road ahead is not going to be as easy as promised. While a majority government can bring programs as per its election manifesto to establish good governance, draft new laws, pass budgets and maintain a corruption-free administration, it would still lack the unilateral power to amend the constitution, declare a state of emergency, hold referendums, or sign long-term international treaties. As an RSP-led majority government becomes a near certainty, a clear debate has emerged regarding its capabilities and limitations. According to experts, government with two-thirds majority will not have any pressure from coalition partners in maintaining good governance to corruption-free administrative mechanism. Bringing the policy and programs as per the manifesto and allocating budget accordingly will also not be an issue, but the problem, as always, has been in the implementation. People will be eyeing the implementation more than the documents, which are promising without doubts. Furthermore, government with two-thirds majority would have the power to impeach and remove heads of constitutional bodies, members or high-ranking officials like the Chief Justice in cases of constitutional violations or incompetence. However, would the government prioritize such issues or works towards addressing the public concerns on service delivery and crackdown on corruption is the pertinent question.
दुईटै बहुमत चाहिँ दुईटै सदनको चाहियो त्यसको लागि चाहिँ राष्ट्रिय सभाको आफ्नो त दुईटै छँदैछ प्रतिनिधि सभामा कुनै दलसँग सरकार राख्न परेन कन्सल्ट गर्न परेन तर राष्ट्रिय सभामा त उले दुईटा या तीनटा दललाई चाहिँ कन्सल्ट गर्न पर्यो ट्रस्ट लिन पर्यो त्यो भयो भने के गर्न सक्छ भन्दा शासकीय स्वरूपमा परिवर्तन गर्न सक्छ जुन चाहिँ आज शासकीय स्वरूपमा चाहिँ ले स्थिर सरकार दिन सकेन एकमना सरकार हुन सकेन भने चाहिँ आज एकमना सरकार भयो त्यसमा चाहिँ निर्वाचन प्रणाली फेर्ने भनेका छन् अब एकदम लोकप्रिय दल भयो भने त निर्वाचन प्रणाली नफेरे पनि दुई तिहाई आउन सक्ने स्थिति रहेछ नि त निर्वाचन प्रणाली फेर्ने नफेर्ने भन्ने प्रश्न पनि रह्यो यदि चाहिँ कोलिसन गभर्नमेन्ट भएको भए निर्वाचन प्रणाली फेर्न पर्थ्यो भन्ने कुरा आउँथ्यो तर त्यो पनि नपर्न पनि सक्छ या डाइरेक्ट इलेक्टेड प्रधानमन्त्री या राष्ट्रपति हुने भन्ने जेनजीको चाहिँ जुन माग छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ राष्ट्रिय सभाको दुईटा तीनटा दललाई चाहिँ उले ट्रस्ट लियो भने संविधान संशोधन गरेर शासकीय स्वरूपमा पनि परिवर्तन गर्न सक्छ.
However, obtaining a single party majority does not make a government omnipotent. For several critical decisions, a two-thirds majority in both the House of Representatives and the National Assembly is mandatory. With the upper house still in favor of the now defeated political parties, it would not be easy for the dominant force in the lower house to act as per its will when it comes to amending constitution. Political analysts believe the current public mandate is a result of disillusionment with traditional parties and a deep desire for change. Also, the internal power equation is something the relatively new party is yet to institutionalize. However, if the government fails to meet public expectations, the people will certainly seek alternatives, if not immediately in the next election. With the Rashtriya Swatantra Party poised for a commanding parliamentary majority, its manifesto now takes center stage as the blueprint for Nepal's next government. The party, led by Balendra Shah, frames its agenda as a citizen contract promising ambitious economic reforms, technology-driven growth, and a focus on good governance. But turning these promises into policy will be the real test as the party moves from campaign to government. Diksha Avasthi breaks down the party's manifesto.
The Rashtriya Swatantra Party's election symbol, the bell, is ringing across Nepal. The party framed this election not as a quest for power, but as what it calls a political loan from the people. With its manifesto presented as a citizen contract, The document lays out an ambitious roadmap promising economic transformation, good governance, and stronger engagement with the Nepali diaspora. At the center of the manifesto is an economic target, an average annual growth rate of 7% and per capita income of over $3,000 within 5 years. To reach that goal, the party says it will focus on increasing production, developing skilled manpower, and promoting technology-based industrialization with a plan to create 1.2 million new jobs in 5 years. The manifesto also promises broader economic reforms, including repealing around 24 outdated laws, reviewing the fixed exchange rate with the Indian rupee, reducing the tax burden, and adjusting income tax thresholds based on household dependency. To attract both domestic and foreign investment, the party pledges effective implementation of one-stop service centers and free digital business registration. One of its most ambitious visions lies in the technology sector. The RSP has declared information technology a national strategic industry with a target of $30 billion in IT sectors within the next decade. To support this, the party plans to build digital parks in all 7 provinces, aiming to position Nepal as a global technology hub exporting artificial intelligence and computational services. The manifesto also addresses ongoing problems in the cooperative and microfinance sectors, promising a unified savings protection fund and the return of small depositors' savings within 100 days. Large cooperatives with annual transactions exceeding 500 million rupees would fall under the direct regulation of the central bank, while loan sharking would be classified as an economic crime. In agriculture, the party says it wants to make farming a dignified profession, promoting agri-tech and fintech solutions, utilizing barren land, and offering tax exemptions for industries that add value to agricultural products. To reduce public expenditure and bureaucracy, the manifesto promises scrapping the Revenue Investigation Department and moving all government services online, shifting from lines to online. At its core, the party says its central promise is integrity and good governance, including an omnibus anti-corruption campaign and a high-level commission to investigate the property of public officials dating back to 1989. The manifesto also highlights outreach to the Nepali diaspora, promising online voting rights, continuity of ancestral citizenship, and a sovereign diaspora fund to channel migrant capital into national development. The road ahead will be closely watched as the party faces a challenge of translating these ambitious commitments from manifesto to policy if it leads the government.
Early results from Nepal's parliamentary elections suggest the country may be on the verge of a significant political transformation. Emerging political groups are gaining momentum across several constituencies, reflecting a wider wave of public demand for change and accountable governance. Here's the report. Nepal is witnessing rise of a new political wave with early vote counting suggesting that emerging political forces are gaining strong momentum across many constituencies. Preliminary trends from various districts indicate that several candidates from new political groups are leading, signaling a shift in voter sentiment and a potential transformation in the country's political landscape. The election comes after months of political turbulence and political protest, many of them driven by younger citizens demanding reforms, accountability, and better governance. Observers say the early trends suggest voters are increasingly looking beyond traditional political forces and placing their trust in new alternatives. Many see the election as an opportunity to bring change and redefine the direction of the nation's politics.
यो समयको माग पनि हो र यो चाहिएको पनि थियो के देशमा चाहिँ एउटा स्थिर सरकार भएर देशमा चाहिँ एउटा विकासको खाकाहरू कोरियोस् युवा जनशक्ति चाहिँ विदेशी नपरोस् यही चाहिँ केही रोजगार पाइयोस् भन्ने चाहिँ युवाहरूको चाहिँ असाध्यै ठुलो माग थियो के यो हामीलाई पनि चाहिएको थियो देशमा चाहिँ विकासको लहर चाहिँ छाओस् भन्ने चाहिँ हामीले यो आम जनताको चाहिँ आवश्यकता पनि हो माग पनि हो.
An election officer overseeing the counting process said officials are working continuously to deliver results as quickly as possible. The special parliamentary election is being closely watched even by the international community as a crucial moment in Nepal's history. The early counting trends suggest the election could mark the beginning of a new political phase as emerging parties and independent candidates gain ground. As vote counting continues across the country, the growing support for new political forces indicates that a fresh wave in Nepal's electoral politics may be taking shape, reflecting the aspirations of citizens seeking transparency, development, and effective governance.
Nepal's March 5 House of Representatives election was undoubtedly historic, arising out of a spatial political vacuum following the overthrowing of an elected government from the street protests of September 8 and 9. The historic proportion of the election, however, was hardly reflected in the voters' turnout, which has been recorded as the lowest in Nepal's history. While the wave of change ushered in by the Gen Z movement beckons a new ray of hope among the people, especially the youth, does the significant drop in the voters' turnout signal towards growing frustration? Diksha Avasti brings a comparative look into the latest figures.
The March 5, 2026 House of Representatives election in Nepal was an early democratic exercise with over 2 years left for the dissolved lower house of parliament. Despite the political significance of the election, only 58.07% of registered voters cast their ballots. In the historic election, which is the lowest turnout recorded in nearly 3 decades in Nepal, a total of 18.9 million voters were registered for the polls, including around 900,000 first-time voters. Yet, the participation rate failed to match expectations. Historically, Nepal has recorded higher voter participation. In 1991, voter turnout stood at 65%, followed by 61% in 1994. The 2013 Constituent Assembly saw an encouraging 78.34% turnout, while the 2017 general election recorded 68% voter turnout, and the last 2022 parliamentary elections saw 61% turnout. The Election Commission, that claims to have gone extra miles to facilitate voting, does not have an answer to the question. The voter registration deadline was extended. The system was further digitized and 168 more polling stations were added compared to the previous federal election. But officials speculate 2 major factors could have contributed to the low turnout. One, a large number of registered Nepali voters living abroad and growing public frustration with politics.
There is very peaceful and enthusiastic voting participation of all voters. However, about the turnout of voting, this is not so satisfactory. However, this is not because of the role of Election Commission Nepal. Maybe this is because of the political parties, and also because some of them are out of the country and some of them are out of their permanent residence.
Experts also point to Nepal's massive labor migration as the factor leading to declining turnout. More than 2 million migrant workers who are eligible voters continue to send billions in remittances back home but are unable to vote. Many citizens feel that despite participating in repeated elections, they have not seen meaningful improvements in their daily lives. With the House of Representatives election only crossing the minimum turnout threshold of 50% to become legitimate, experts warn this could be a serious dent in democratic practice.
When you look at that, if it was less than 50%, that was invalid election. But it crosses 50% already, average around 58 to 59%, which is by law is a valid vote.
According to the Election Commission, despite exploring options such as out-of-constituency voting and overseas voting, serious legal and logistic hurdles, along with the lack of political will, made it impossible to materialize the agenda. As Nepal moves forward after yet another election, the challenge now is not only conducting polls, but re-energizing voters' confidence to ensure that more citizens feel their vote truly matters.
Ballots now have been sealed in what may prove to be one of the most consequential elections in Nepal's recent democratic history.
Millions of voters across the country casted their ballots in the third parliamentary election since Nepal embraced the Federal Democratic Republican system. Held in the aftermath of political turbulence and the Gen Z-led movement that shook the country just months ago, election is widely seen as a defining moment for Nepal's political future. A detailed report by Sivani Thapa Basnab.
From the Himalayan districts to the plains of the Tarai, voters turned out in significant numbers Thursday, lining up at polling stations across Nepal in a nationwide exercise of democracy. The scale of the election has been enormous. Millions of voters, thousands of candidates, and polling stations spread across some of the world's most challenging geography. Authorities deployed massive security and administrative resources to ensure the process remained largely peaceful and orderly. For the interim government led by former Chief Justice Sushila Karki, successfully conducting the election amid skepticism and sporadic challenges is already being viewed as a significant institutional achievement. But beyond the logistics, the real story lies in what this vote represents. This election comes at a moment when Nepal's political mood appears to be shifting. Public frustration with traditional parties, growing economic pressures, and the rising voice of a political awakened youth population have reshaped the national conversation. The Gen Z-led protest earlier this year amplified demands for accountability, reform, and a break from entrenched political patterns. And that is precisely why this election has drawn unusual international attention.
Rarely does Nepal hit global political headlines, but when it does, its developments often echo far beyond its borders. Across South Asia as well, the past few years have seen dramatic political upheavals, from economic collapse to mass protest and electoral shake-ups as well, which have largely challenged the long-standing political establishments. Now, across this regional backdrop, Nepal's election is being closely watched by the globe as another possible chapter in a broader democratic shift.
For many observers, the central question is simple but profound. Will Nepal's restless youth translate street momentum into electoral change? Or will the country once again return to a familiar outcome, a fragmented parliament shaped by traditional party loyalties that run deep through generations? The answers will begin to emerge as ballots are counted. For now, one thing is clear: Nepalis have spoken through the ballot box. Whether this vote produces a political earthquake or another chapter of cautious continuity is what the nation and a watching region will soon find out.
Young first-time voters own this Federal House of Representatives election, marking their strong presence in polling centres. Across Kathmandu, polling stations saw enthusiastic participation from young voters, much contrary to what was seen in the past. Several polling stations across the capital have been thronged by youths since early morning. The youths were hopeful that the country would change with the able leaders taking the policy-level chairs. Diksha Avasti hopped around some of the polling centres across the federal capital.
From 7 a.m. early morning, long queues began forming outside polling stations across Kathmandu, the capital. Among the crowd, there was a generation stepping into the democratic process for the very first time. Young first-time voters arrived at polling centres determined to take part in Nepal's Federal House of Representatives of Nepal election. The turnout of youths in polling centres across constituencies 5, 6, 7 and 8 in Kathmandu was striking. Many described their first vote as both exciting and deeply personal.
I think we were all anticipating this moment for a long time now, because it's been almost 6 months since the Gen Z revolution, and we all kind of wanted to see the change come in life. So I think it felt like I was actively participating in something that could make a change in the future, and felt very empowering to me.
For many, today's vote is more than a civic ritual. It is a response to years of frustration with the political culture they say have failed to deliver stability, accountability and opportunity. And after the recent September 8 and 9 Gen Z movement in Nepal, many young people say they feel a stronger sense of political responsibility.
Now I'm thinking about more like what are the agendas, what are the manifestos, and what change the leader could bring in the society and itself, and also in the House of Parliament.
These voters say the expectation from political leaders is clear. They want a new political culture, one built on good governance, transparency, accountability, social justice, and equality.
It was too much, like the corruption, everything, and we wanted a new change.
I feel like taking out all the suffocation, and then after all, I think this election will do something better.
For this generation, the ballot represents both hope and pressure. Hope for change and pressure on those who will hold power.
For the development of our country, for the betterment of the people, that's what I'm mostly looking forward to.
As voting concludes across Nepal, these first-time voters say their participation is not just about choosing representatives. It is about demanding a more accountable and inclusive political future for Nepal.
That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with major highlights of the week. Thank you for watching NTV World.
Welcome to Declassified Beyond the Brief. I'm Devendra Subedi. What is the importance of scientific research and academics in our day-to-day life? Do the breakthroughs and findings made by great scientists and researchers matter in everyday life of a common person like us? In this episode, we try to declassify the value of academics in life, history-making finding of a Nobel laureate, major challenges the world is facing, the cosmos, the universe, and much more. It is our honor and privilege to welcome Nobel laureate Professor Dr. Takaaki Kazuta in the studios of Nepal Television and NTV World. Professor Kazuta, welcome to NTV World.
Thank you.
You were the chief guest of the 51st convocation of one of the largest universities of the world, Trivandrum University. Now, how much do countries like Nepal contribute in the global ecosystem of physics, Professor?
Well, as far as I think, physics is truly a global effort. Therefore, I think Nepal is one of the important contributors to the development of physics.
So Nepal can play or has played, Professor, so far?
Well, I hope Nepal can play more significant role in the future.
Now, going back to the universities, Professor, how did the Japanese universities where you studied shaped your scientific journey up to the Nobel Prize and the research that you conducted?
Thank you for this question. When I was young, I think the Japanese national universities have a kind of academic freedom. I can spend all my time for the research. I think that kind of environment was very important to really produce important scientific result.
But in our part, we often talk about practical education. It should be more day-to-day use. This should come into, but that is the importance of research, isn't it, Professor? We should concentrate. And what about the investment in research?
Well, I think both fundamental research and research that can contribute to tomorrow's life are both important. So we have to support both sides.
If Nepal have to strengthen its higher education system, let's say, what lessons can it learn from Japan at this present time?
In the last 20 or so years, Japanese government tried to reduce the support to the Japanese national universities. Then the effect was clear. The number of papers or number of highly cited papers rapidly decreased. So I think the support from the government, support from all the people in the country is very important for the development of science.
Now we move on to one of the things that you mentioned in your Convocation Day speech, Professor Kazita. You mentioned about some of the major issues the world is facing right now. Can you elaborate something more onto your speech?
Well, I think I had several points. First of all, I mentioned AI, and AI is a kind of new technology, and it seems AI is really going to be really important for our future, and therefore we have to think about the way how to use AI properly. Of course, there are other issues such as climate change. This is again a global issue. Therefore, we all have to work hard to stop the global warming.
How about the geopolitical tensions surrounding this world, Professor Kazita?
Well, I don't want to go into too details about this issue, but well, compared with, say, 20 years ago, well, I am really feeling that our world is changing. I really like to have our world 20 years ago.
That was much better.
Much better, yes.
Will the global dynamics, Professor Kazita, always be dictated by the countries who have a lot of spending in scientific research or the ones that have robust economy? Who do you think will dictate the global dynamics?
Certainly, nowadays, some countries try to control everything, but well, I think every country, every people are player in the world.
So it should be a collaborative world.
Yes.
If you said you can't comment much on that one, now I come to your topic, physics, Professor Kazita. Will the nuclear threat or the race that we see in this world after the evolution of technologies like nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, will that ever end, or are we going to ever see an end to this one?
Difficult question. Well, certainly, as far as the energy is concerned, if we have enough renewable energy resources, I hope we can forget about the nuclear powers and so on. But for the moment, we are not yet that position. So therefore, we still have, in my opinion, we still have to think seriously what will be the best way for the future.
There are always pros and cons of every discovery or whenever there's a new evolution. Should the ones that are a threat to humanity or the environment be let's say, eliminated right from the initial phase, or they should carry on? Let's take the example of cloning. Right. Let's say now we have even reached up to human cloning. There's still a debate in that one. So such type of researches and experiments, should those things be promoted or should not be done at all?
Well, I'm certainly in a little bit conservative side. Well, nowadays, the things that science can do have expanded so much. Therefore, when we think about any application, we have to be very serious, and we need to have a significant discussion, and we need to have a consensus among the society.
So does that involve the scientific community only, or the common people as well?
I think we should involve the common people.
Now we move on to your specific research area, Professor Kazita, that won you a Nobel Prize in 2015, physics, the cosmic rays and the neutrino oscillation. What is neutrino physics and how is it different from the particle physics?
Neutrino physics is part of particle physics, but, well, we think now neutrino physics is important because about 25 years ago, people discovered neutrino oscillations that implies neutrinos have small mass. And small mass of neutrinos might be the window to study physics beyond the standard model of particle physics. Therefore, well, we are excited.
Let's say this is something, a standard ball pen. How small and deep is your research when you study the neutrino oscillation? How small is the particle? To what depth do you reach?
Well, in the standard scenario, neutrinos do not have the size. Therefore, I cannot say how small.
Exactly how small they are. But they are not visible to our eyes, are they?
No, it's not possible even for particle physics experiments. We cannot see neutrinos.
So, in simple terms, Professor Kazita, neutrino oscillation, what is it and why it matters to common people like us?
Oh, okay. Well, neutrino oscillations are phenomena that neutrinos, while traveling in the vacuum or even in the matter, they change their type.
Yeah.
That is the neutrino oscillations, and this happens if neutrinos have small mass. Of course, even if neutrinos have small mass, it doesn't matter to our daily life.
It doesn't matter, but it does shape the future of humanity, isn't it?
Well, as a humanity, we would like to understand the secrets of the universe, and therefore we may contribute to expanding our knowledge.
How challenging was it, Professor Kazita, to prove the neutrino oscillation theory experimentally?
Well, okay. When we discovered neutrino oscillations in 1998, well, people were not sure if really neutrinos oscillate. Therefore, we thought it's very important to convince neutrino physicists with a very clear data.
So with the experiment, you provided that data to your team and that did the research?
Yes, our team provided the clean data, yes.
I heard you say, Professor Kazita, my failed research, unsuccessful research, gave me a PhD. And the one that was successful earned you a Nobel Prize. You said somewhere this statement of yours. Can you explain on that one?
Yes, okay, thank you. Well, when I was a PhD student, I wanted to observe proton decays. I was unable to observe, but fortunately, I got PhD.
For that particular research?
Yes. And well, even after PhD, I continued search for proton decays. Then, in some day, I noticed that the background events to the search for proton decays are not understood. That was neutrino interactions. Then I changed to this topic.
What does your discovery mean for humanity's or our, let's say, understanding of the matter and the cosmos?
Well, certainly, if we understand, for example, why neutrino mass is so small, it will certainly give us a better understanding of the fundamental theory of the particles, and these particle theories could help understand the universe better.
Is there any practical application of that in our day-to-day life?
No, I don't expect so.
Professor Kazita, you have spoken of super and hyper Kamiokande. You have already worked on that, going underneath the earth and then doing the experiment. Can you explain in simple terms to our viewers what exactly was that Kamiokande? Or you were even talking about the hyper Kamiokande now, which you want to work on.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me talk about the super Kamiokande experiment. It is a very large detector located in deep underground. It is located about 1,000 meter deep underground, and the size is about 40 meter in diameter and 40 meter high, and it contains 50,000 tons of extremely clean water. And you may ask, why you need 50,000 tons of water? Well, the problem is neutrinos essentially pass through everything, but very rarely they interact with matter. Therefore, in order to observe neutrino events, we need large volume. Therefore, we use 50,000 tons of water.
You went underneath, almost 1 kilometers underneath the surface of Earth in that reactor. And then how long did it take to come up with the finding?
Well, in fact, super Kamiokande was large enough. Therefore, in order to discover neutrino oscillations, it took only 2 years.
How large will be the hyper Kamiokande you are talking about?
Hyper Kamiokande will be about 8 times larger in volume than super Kamiokande.
When are you expecting, are you already into that mission, or are you expecting to do it pretty soon?
I think the experiment will start in 2028, so less than 3 years.
So you said there are a lot of collaboration in that one, 22 countries coming together for the Kamiokande. How about this hyper Kamiokande?
22 or 3 countries in collaboration is the hyper Kamiokande experiment. Even in super Kamiokande, we have collaborators from 11 countries.
11 countries then. So you are doubling the number, and it's 8 times larger experiment. I would like to wish you all the best for your hyper Kamiokande right here, right now, Professor Kazita, and hopefully the findings will land you another Nobel Prize. Maybe.
Thank you, but I'm not deeply involved in hyper Kamiokande.
All right, but you are the one who started this with the super one, and then hopefully that will be carried forward by the new generation of research.
Yes, I hope so.
How important is sustained investment in basic research or scientific breakthroughs in developing countries like Nepal, Professor?
Well, it's an important point. Well, from our experience, I can say the sustained support by the government is really important to carry out basic research. Well, it's not easy to produce important results in basic science, but, well, in our case, government was very supportive, and we were able to produce important results over the past 30 years.
Any suggestion you have for developing countries like Nepal, where, as earlier I mentioned, we only talk about practical education, more day-to-day life applications, and why they should also spend in research and all this sort of stuff. Any suggestion you have, Professor?
Well, first of all, in order to develop science, academic freedom is important. So researchers can select whatever they would like to do. So that kind of freedom is very important. And sometimes their research cannot contribute to tomorrow's life. But if we think about the long history of humanity, the basic science, in some cases, contribute significantly to humanities. Therefore, the support to basic science is very important, even in Nepal.
Do you think Nobel-level discoveries or research or findings are possible from countries like Nepal or any other developing countries as well?
I think so. But, well, supporting basic science is really the key to get the fundamental research result.
You spoke about perseverance in your speech in the convocation day. How important is perseverance and patience?
Well, it's absolutely essential to be able to continue the research for a long time.
For example, once you did your research and you couldn't find the proton decaying thing and you earned your PhD, had you left it there, you would not have reached up to the findings that you have made there. But today, nowadays, youths or even people are very much result-oriented. They want immediate result. They want immediate success. What message you have for them?
I think it's important that researchers find important questions, and it may take long time to answer to these important questions. But if you think this question is important, you should persuade.
So keep working on, think about the long-term impact, do investment from the government side, and the young researchers do not look for immediate success.
That's right. And, well, I think nowadays young researchers have a very high pressure in order to get the next job. Therefore, it's very important that government support young researchers' permanent position.
How important is physics, Professor Kazita, to human existence itself, to humanity? Physics.
Well, it's a difficult question. Well, as humanity, we would like to understand the universe better, and we physicists can contribute to our better understanding of the universe. Maybe that's all we can do.
As I earlier asked, in that practical thing you said, our better understanding of our universe. We should understand our universe better. And maybe the researchers in future can take your learning and apply there. How should humanity balance this curiosity-driven science with immediate societal needs?
I think this is a very important question. And, well, certainly, as a physicist working on fundamental things, I really hope stronger support for fundamental research, but the balance between the fundamental research and the improvement of the tomorrow's life is always an issue. And I think we have to discuss as a community what will be the best way for the moment.
Information technology is evolving.
Yeah.
You spoke about AI earlier as well. Do you see it as a challenge, or will it complement human efficiency in the long term?
I think we have to, well, first of all, it is not possible to avoid the use of AI anymore. Then the question is, shall we simply use them without thinking anything?
Yeah.
That is the question. And I think, well, certainly we should use AI, but at the same time, we should not forget the importance of our thinking.
So it's not just the machines. We cannot avoid the use of technology and get the benefit out of it, but don't leave it alone, right?
Right.
Okay. Finally, we're reaching almost at the end of this conversation, Professor Kazita. What message would you like to share with young scientists in developing countries like Nepal?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for this question. Well, as I said, physics or science is a global effort. And if young people are interested in science, interested in understanding the nature, please do not hesitate to do research, to become scientists. Please do not hesitate to become scientists.
Final question, Professor Kazita. Say something about Nepal. This is your third time in Nepal. How do you like this country?
Oh, I like Nepal very much. Whenever I come to Nepal, I'm really excited. If I visit the old temple, I'm really inspired, and I find some similarities between Japanese culture and Nepal culture. So I'm always excited to come here.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your time, your precious time. We were really, really honored to have you in our studios of NTV World. Looking forward to your Hyperkamyokonde experiment, which will be a carry forward from what you have left. Thank you so much, Professor Kazita, for your time, for your thoughts. We are really honored to have you in the studios of NTV World. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was indeed an honor for the entire team of NTV World to have world-renowned researcher, physician, the Nobel laureate 2015, Professor Takaaki Kazita. In this episode of Declassified, we tried to explore the cosmos, the universe, the findings of Japanese Nobel Prize-winning physics professor Takaaki Kazita. I know for many of us, the findings of the research that Professor Takaaki Kazita made may not come to our day-to-day life, but the lesson from Professor is, to the scientists, to the researchers, do not hesitate to do research. Do not look for immediate fruits. And for the government, please do make sizable investment in research so that the future of humanity can be shaped in a better way and the world can be a better place for all. Thank you so much for your presence in this episode of Declassified. Until next time, from the entire crew, it's me, Devendra Subedi, saying bye-bye. Pokhara is undoubtedly #1 destination for tourists in Nepal. The valley, blessed with natural beauty, attracts domestic and foreign tourists alike. You must have already visited Pokhara. If you haven't or planning another trip, then these are some of the must-go places in Pokhara. The first attraction in Pokhara is the Feva Lake. Boating in Feva Lake is a ritual for every tourist visiting this paradise. The Tal Barahi temple at the center of the lake adds to the beauty of the place. A round-trip boat ride in Feva Lake to and from the temple is a feature of both the lake as well as the temple. Separate boat ride, watching the reflection of Mount Machapuchre on the lake and fishing spice up the Feva experience. The lakeside along the banks of the Feva Lake is a popular tourist hub. Many tourists in Pokhara choose Devi's Fall as their second destination in Pokhara. The water from Feva Lake exits towards Seti River through the Gupteshwar cave from this Devi's Fall. The mighty water stream rushing deep down into the gorge, covered by water vapor, is a magical sight. Pokhara is known as the city of lakes and caves. Many of the lakes and caves have religious importance. This is Gupteshwar cave at Chorepatan area. Inside the cave, the idol of Lord Shiva is a well-known pilgrimage. Further inside the cave, one can see the Devi's Fall. Mahindra Cave is another famous place in Pokhara, and nearby is another well-known Chamere cave. Both the caves can be visited together. Two other well-known tourist destinations in Pokhara are Begnas and Rupa lakes. Fresh fish of Begnas Lake is a sought-after delicacy. Rupa Lake is just round the corner beyond a small hill towards the eastern edge of Begnas Lake. Away from the hustle and bustle of the town, Begnas and Rupa Lakes cannot be taken out of a tourist's itinerary. This is the famous White Monastery on top of the hill above Feva Lake. This is also a popular destination for domestic as well as foreign tourists. The top-angle bird's-eye view of Pokhara city from the monastery is a sight to behold. The placid Feva Lake, the tall mountain range, and the birds like paragliding pilots on the background of Sarankot Hill are mesmerizing. The Bindabasini temple in Pokhara is a famous shrine in Nepal. The best route to visit the temple is on the way to Sarankot. Devotees throng the Bindabasini temple, which is atop a small hill with panoramic view of Pokhara city. The Bindabasini temple is famous among the Hindus across the country. Sarangkot is a hill station on top of a hill on the northwestern side of Pokhara. A must-go place to see the majestic Mount Machapuchre and Mount Dhaulagiri in the Annapurna range in front of the eyes, and also the Pokhara and Leknath cities on the other side. Sarangkot is synonymous to paragliding in Nepal. Taking off from the Sarangkot hill, one can enjoy the panoramic mountain range in addition to the bird's eye view of Pokhara city. Ultralight and zip flyer offer a thrill to adventure seekers in Pokhara and are becoming major interests for tourists. Other places, including Swarak in Sangja, have the potential to be world's best place for paragliding. First time in Nepal, paragliding accuracy World Cup was held at this place, situated at Mahapur of Virkot municipality of the district. The place drew global attention after the event. Pokhara, famous tourism destination of the country. Majority of locals engaged in tourism industry. The city of lakes and caves, hub of aviation sports. Some major destinations: Lakeside, Feva Lake and Tal Barahi Temple, Begnas and Rupa Lakes, Mahendra Gufa.
पाटन दरबार स्क्वायर विश्व सम्पदामा पर्नुको आधारहरूको कुरा गर्दै सबभन्दा पहिले त यो विश्व सम्पदामा युनेस्कोले 1979 मा यो पाटन दरबार क्षेत्र अथवा त्यो बेला चाहिँ काठमाडौँ भ्याली वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट भनेर काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाको 7 वटा विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरू, जसलाई अहिले हामी संरक्षित स्मारक क्षेत्र भन्छौँ, 7 वटा विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरूलाई काठमाडौँ भ्याली वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइटमा इन्लिस्टिङ गरेको थियो। अब त्यसमा सबभन्दा ठुलो कुरो त के भन्दाखेरि तपाईँले पाटन दरबार स्क्वायर, काठमाडौँ दरबार स्क्वायर, भक्तपुर दरबार स्क्वायर हेर्नुभयो भने यो 17औं शताब्दीसम्म मल्ल राजाहरूले यहाँ शासन गर्दाखेरिको दरबार क्षेत्र हो। दरबार स्क्वायर नामैले अब धेरैले सोध्छन् दरबार स्क्वायर भनेको के हो भनेर। वास्तवमा यो तीनटा त्यो बेला चाहिँ यो तीनटा अहिलेको ठुलो सहरहरू पहिला तीनटा छुट्टा छुट्टै राज्य नै थिए, छुट्टा छुट्टै देशकै रूपमा स्थापित थिए, मल्ल राजाहरू थिए। त्यसकारण राजाहरूको दरबार भएको कारणले दरबार स्क्वायर भन्ने हो। अब पाटन दरबार स्क्वायरको कुरा गर्दाखेरि पाटन दरबार स्क्वायरमा पाटन दरबार पुरानो मल्ल राजाको दरबार लगायत यहाँ भएका विभिन्न मन्दिरहरू हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि यहाँ 16औं शताब्दीदेखि लिएर 17औं 18औं शताब्दीसम्मका पैगोडा शैलीका र शिखर शैलीका विभिन्न मन्दिरहरू। त्यसमा सबैभन्दा पुरानो भनेको 1565 मा बनेको चारनारायणको मन्दिर हो। यो चारनारायणको मन्दिर लगायत अरू मन्दिरहरूमा हेर्नुभयो भने हामी यसलाई हाम्रो पैगोडा शैली भन्छौँ। यो चाहिँ नि नेपाली एकदम बेग्लै किसिमको आफ्नै पहिचान भएको पैगोडा शैली हो। तपाईँले साउथ इस्ट एसियातिर अन्त हेर्न जानुभयो भने पैगोडा शैली भनेको भिन्नै प्रकारको छ। तर हाम्रो यहाँको पैगोडा शैली भनेको मल्टी रुफ, धेरैवटा छाना भएको, झिङ्गटीको छाना भएको त्यस्तो मन्दिरलाई चाहिँ हामी पैगोडा शैली भन्छौँ। यो चारनारायणको मन्दिर लगायत अन्य पैगोडा शैलीको मन्दिरहरूमा हेर्नुभयो भने काष्ठकलाले यति भरिपूर्ण छ। तपाईँले प्रत्येक एक एकवटा सानो टुँडालदेखि लिएर त्यहाँको झ्यालहरू हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि यो पक्कै पनि विश्वमा चिनाउन सक्ने खालको नेपाली कलाकृति रहेको छ। यो वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइटमा इन्लिस्टिङ हुनुमा सायद यिनै मुख्य कारण हो।
पाटन दरबार कसले बनाएर कहिले बनायो भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ इतिहासमा एकिन मिति पाउन सकिँदैन। तर यसको ऐतिहासिकताको चर्चा गर्दा चाहिँ किराँत कालदेखि नै सुरुवात गर्नुपर्ने चाहिँ यसको नाम एल भएको कारणले गर्दा कसैले एलम्बरको नामबाट एल रहन गयो या पनि भन्ने कुरा छ। त्यसपछि आएर हामीले लिच्छवीकालीनमा चाहिँ 643 को एउटा अभिलेख यो केशवनारायण चोकमा देखिन्छ भने अर्को 570 एडीको चाहिँ मङ्गहिटी धारा पनि देख्न सकिन्छ। त्योभन्दा पछिको संरचनाहरू चाहिँ सबै मल्ल शासकको बेलामा बनेको देखिन्छ।
यो मन्दिर चाहिँ नि राजा सिद्धि नरसिंह मल्लले 1636-37 मा बनाउनु भएको 1636। त्यो बेलामा हामीसँग ढुङ्गे टेक्नोलोजी त्यति थिएन। ढुङ्गाको टेक्नोलोजी चाहिँ लिच्छवी कालमा धेरै राम्रो थियो। त्यसपछि हामीले त्यो ढुङ्गाको टेक्नोलोजीमा त्यति त्यो ढुङ्गाको मठ मन्दिरहरू बनाउने टेक्नोलोजीमा त्यति हामी अगाडि बढेनौँ। तर इँटा र माटोकोमा काठकोमा चाहिँ पेगोडा शैलीमा हामी धेरै माथि गयौँ। त्यसपछि ढुङ्गाको जुन शैलीमा जानु पर्दाखेरि त्यो बेलामा हाम्रो यहाँको मिस्त्रीहरूलाई साह्रै समस्या पर्यो। माटोको चाहिँ अडाइदिन सक्छु त्यो ठुलो अल्गो गगनचुम्बी त्यो बेलाको हिसाबले, यो त ढुङ्गाको त हामी सक्दैनौँ भन्ने भएपछि त्यो समस्या गनगन हुँदै गर्दाखेरि ठड्याउन नसक्ने भइसक्यो। एकजना बुढो मान्छे जान्ने मान्छे आएर मोडेल सोडेल बनाएर यसरी गर्नुहोस् भने सिकाएर जानुभयो। अनि उहाँलाई विश्वकर्माको अवतार मानेर उहाँलाई सम्झनामा उहाँले पूजा गरेर अनि त्यसपछि कृष्ण मन्दिर बनाउन सुरु गरेको भन्यो। तल्लो तल्लामा हेर्नु होला तपाईँले बच्चाहरूको लागि खेल्न रमाइलो, बच्चाहरूले बुझ्ने ज्ञान सिम्ब शार्दुल राखेको छ। त्योभन्दा माथि जानुभयो भने तपाईँले देख्नुहुन्छ रामायणको मर्यादा, समाजमा मर्यादा कसरी कायम गर्ने सामान्य बच्चाभन्दा अलिकति माथिल्लो स्तरको लागि ज्ञान छ। रामायणको ज्ञानहरू, रामायणको चित्रपट छ त्यहाँ, त्यसमा अक्षरले पनि कुदेको छ, यो भनेको यो गरेको यो वर्णन छ। अनि अझ त्योभन्दा माथिल्लो स्तरमा जानुहुन्छ भने महाभारतको राजनीतिको ज्ञान दिएको छ हेर्नुहोस् है। सामान्यभन्दा माथिल्लो स्तरमा गएको छ, महाभारतको ज्ञान दिने कोही। त्योभन्दा पनि माथि जानुहुन्छ भने बनारस काशी दार्शनिक ज्ञान, धर्म मात्र होइन धर्मको पनि प्रकाण्ड माथि पुगेपछि दार्शनिक ज्ञानहरू राखेको छ। त्योभन्दा माथि तपाईँ एक तला माथि जानुभयो भने तपाईँले के पाउनुहुन्छ, फेरि शिवको मूर्ति पाउनुहुन्छ। शिव अवतार पनि त्यही हुन्छ। सबभन्दा माथिल्लो तलामा फेरि हेर्नु होला तपाईँले देख्नुहुन्छ 4 नारायण राखिदिएको छ, शिलालेखमा भने जस्तै सृष्टिको वैकुण्ठ।
अब यो म पर्को टोलमा बसेको नाताले चाहिँ पर्को टोलबाटै हराएको लक्ष्मीनारायणको चाहिँ मूर्ति जो छ त्यसको बारेमा चाहिँ अब खोजनीति गर्ने हाम्रो कर्तव्य पनि भयो र मेरो पनि कर्तव्य हुन आयो। यो हराएको चाहिँ करिब यो 44 सालतिर हो खास चाहिँ। अनि हामीले चाहिँ अब मूर्ति हराइसकेपछि अब त्यहाँ भक्तजनहरूलाई पूजा गर्नको लागि अब के गर्ने, अब मन्दिर चाहिँ छ तर मूर्ति नभएपछि त त्यहाँ त अब अशोभनीय हुने भयो। त्यसैले हामीले त्यसको चाहिँ अब अर्को छुट्टै एउटा लक्ष्मीनारायणकै अब स्वरूपको चाहिँ एउटा मूर्ति बनाएर चाहिँ प्रतिष्ठापन गऱ्यौँ हामीले। त्यसपछि एकजना हाम्रो यो जयलिन भन्ने एकजना आर्टिस्ट हुनुहुन्छ, कलाकार हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँले चाहिँ हराएको मूर्तिको बारेमा चाहिँ त्यो मूर्तिको पनि उहाँले स्केच गर्नुभएको छ। त्यो स्केच चाहिँ उहाँले कहाँबाट लिनुभयो भनेपछि यो हाम्रो लैनसिन वाङदेलले चाहिँ लेख्नुभएको एउटा द स्टोलन इमेजेस अफ नेपाल भन्ने एउटा किताब छ। त्यो किताबबाट चाहिँ उहाँले लिनुभएको। अनि त्यो स्केचबाट चाहिँ उहाँ चाहिँ अमेरिकाको चाहिँ यो अमेरिकाको डल्लास म्युजियममा चाहिँ भ्रमणमा जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ देख्नु भएको छ। त्यो जो मैले चाहिँ स्केच गरेको त्यही नै हो भन्ने उहाँ लागिसकेपछि चाहिँ अब त्यो कुरा चाहिँ गभर्मेन्ट लेभलमा पुग्यो। त्यसपछि त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ ल्याउने प्रक्रिया सुरु भयो। अनि त्यो प्रक्रिया सुरु भइसकेपछि चाहिँ अब यहाँ हाम्रो महानगरपालिकाले पनि अब आवश्यक चाहिँ सहयोगहरू जुटाएको छ त्यो ल्याउने काममा चाहिँ। त्यसै अरू थुप्रै चाहिँ अब हाम्रा संस्कृति प्रेमीहरू होइन, अब यो हितैषीहरू, शुभेच्छुकहरू सबैले चाहिँ सहयोग गरेर यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ प्रतिस्थापन गर्नु भ्यायौँ हामीले।
मणिमण्डपको बारे कुरा गर्नुपर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो यो मणिमण्डप चाहिँ दुईवटा पार्टी छ, जुन त्यो मङ्गल बजारको त्यो हिटी तल जानेकोमा चाहिँ। अनि त्यो पार्टी बस्नको लागि मात्र होइन कि त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ कल्चर र त्यसमा चाहिँ हिस्टोरी धेरै कुरा जोडिरहेको छ। स्पेसली कुरा गर्नुपर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यसमा चाहिँ हाम्रो मच्छिन्द्रनाथ जात्रामा चाहिँ एकदम ठुलो रोल खेल्छ त्यसले चाहिँ। अब हामी तल जाँदाखेरि दाहिनेपट्टिकोमा चाहिँ त्यहाँनिर बसेर हाम्रो गुठीको मच्छिन्द्रनाथ गुठीको चाहिँ मानिसहरू अनि प्लस पानेजु खलकहरू अनि ज्योतिष खलकहरू चाहिँ बसेर त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ कुन दिन जात्रा गर्ने, कुन दिन रथ तान्ने, कुन दिन फोटो देखाउने, त्यो सबै डेटहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ बसेर चाहिँ सबै खलकहरू बसेर चाहिँ सहमतिमा चाहिँ त्यो फिक्स गर्ने गरिन्छ। सो अहिलेसम्म पनि त्यो चाहिँ कल्चर चाहिँ अहिलेसम्म पनि कन्टिन्यू भइरहेको छ।
दरबार स्क्वायर भनौँ अथवा पाटन सहर भनौँ, यो चाहिँ नि प्राचीन कालदेखि नै लिच्छवी काल अथवा त्योभन्दा पनि अगाडि किराँत कालदेखिकै महत्त्वपूर्ण ऐतिहासिक पुरातात्विक महत्त्वको स्थल हो। यहाँ चाहिँ नि मूर्त अमूर्त सम्पदाहरूले चाहिँ धनी छ यो सहर। यहाँ चाहिँ जस्तो अब हामीले दरबार स्क्वायरबाट बाहिर हेऱ्यौँ भनेदेखि चाहिँ नि विभिन्न वास्तु संरचनाहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। यी संरचनाहरू चाहिँ नि मल्लकालदेखिका संरचना भए पनि यसले चाहिँ मल्लकालभन्दा धेरै अगाडिदेखिको इतिहास बोकेको छ। यहाँ चाहिँ नि यो मूर्त सम्पदा मात्रै होइन, यहाँ चाहिँ नि विभिन्न अमूर्त सम्पदाहरू पनि त्यत्तिकै मात्रामा भएको कारणले गर्दा चाहिँ नि यहाँ पर्यटकहरू आउने यसको चाहिँ नि महत्त्व विश्वमा नै प्रसिद्ध रहेको छ।
आजभन्दा 382 वर्ष अगाडि राजा सिद्धनरसिंह मल्लको पालामा उनका गुरुद्वय हरिवंश राजोपाध्याय तथा विश्वनाथ राजोपाध्यायको सहयोग र सल्लाहमा चाहिँ यो नाच देश र जनताको कल्याणको लागि 5 दिनबाट सुरु भएको थियो। अनि पछि उनका छोरा भन्नाले सिद्धनरसिंह मल्लका छोरा श्रीनिवास मल्लले यस नाचमा बाठो प्याख त्यो भनेको लोक नाटक 7 दिनको हुन्छ, यो नाचहरूलाई थपेर यस नाचलाई चाहिँ 12 दिनसम्म सञ्चालन गर्नुभयो। पछि उनका पनि छोरा श्रीनिवास मल्लका छोरा योग नरेन्द्र मल्लले चाहिँ यसमा यो नाचमा चाहिँ अरू उषाहरण र माधव बानल भन्ने नाचहरू थपेर यसलाई चाहिँ कार्तिक महिनाभरि त्यो भनेको 27 दिन तिहारको 3 दिन बाहेक एकै महिना सञ्चालन गर्नुभयो। यो कार्तिक महिनाभरि सञ्चालन गरिने भएकोले पनि यो नाचलाई चाहिँ कार्तिक नाच भनेको हो। र अनि यो नाचमा चाहिँ हाम्रो नेवार समुदायको बाहुल्यता रहने गर्छ। हाम्रो नेवार समुदायको सम्पूर्ण जातहरू माथिल्लोदेखि लिएर सम्पूर्ण तल्लो जातसम्मको यसमा यो नाचमा समावेश भएको छ। अनि विभिन्न जात अनुसारै यसमा कलाकारहरू साथसाथै यसमा चाहिँ सहयोग गर्नेहरूलाई पनि भिन्न कामहरू छुट्याइ आएको छ, जुन हालसम्म पनि निरन्तरता भइरहेको छ।
छोरा नातिहरूले भोलि पर्सि चाहिँ हाम्रा बाजे बराजुहरूले के बनाएर गए, हामी कहाँ चाहिँ कस्तो कस्तो किसिमको टेक्नोलोजीहरू थिए, हाम्रो कल्चर के थिए इत्यादि कुराहरू उनीहरूले पनि जानोस् भन्ने हिसाबले यस्ता चिजहरूलाई चाहिँ बचाइराख्नुपर्ने एकदमै आवश्यक ठान्छु। त्यसकारण चाहिँ भुइँचालोले जति पनि भत्के ती सबै चाहिँ फेरि कुनै चाहिँ नभत्किएकालाई हामीले रेट्रोफिटिङ गरेर पनि जोगायौँ र भत्किएकालाई पुनर्निर्माण गरेर फेरि पुरानै शैलीमा पुरानै जति पनि सामानहरू हामीले पुनः प्रयोग गर्न योग्य थिए त्यो सामानहरू जुन बटुलेर राखेको थियो त्यसलाई नै फेरि पुनः प्रयोग गरेर हामीले मन्दिरहरू बनायौँ। जस्तो हामीले नयाँ बनाउन नसकिने भन्ने होइन कि नयाँ बनाउँदाखेरि त्यसको जति महत्त्व हुन्छ त्यसलाई हामी चाहिँ भनौँ न अब अर्को 50 वर्षपछि हामीले त्यो नयाँ राम्रै बनाए पनि यो चाहिँ 72 सालको भुइँचालोपछि बनाए यसको चाहिँ 75 वर्ष भएको छ भन्ने चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ जुन रिसर्चबाट देख्छौँ। तर अहिले जुन मन्दिरहरू छन् 300-400 वर्ष पुरानो छन् त्यसलाई नै हामीले जोगाइराख्यो भने अझ त्यसको चाहिँ महत्त्व बढ्दै जान्छ। त्यसकारण जति सक्यो त्यति चाहिँ हामीले पुरानो सामग्रीहरूलाई पुनः प्रयोग गरेर त्यसलाई नै चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ युज गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ मान्यता राख्दछ।
पाटन दरबार स्क्वायर भनेको चाहिँ ललितपुरको मुटुमै छ, जसलाई हामीले मङ्गल बजार भनिन्छ। लिच्छवीकालदेखि यसमा विभिन्न मनी हुँदै यसलाई चाहिँ पछि अपभ्रंश भएर मङ्गल बजार भएको हो, जसमा यसमा इतिहास र पुरातात्विक प्रमाणमा 60वटा मणि छ भनिन्छन्, जसमध्ये मणि केशव, मणि भैरव, मणि गणेश, मणि कुमार, मणि धारा, मणि गुफा र मणि केशव गरी यी 60वटा मणिहरू छन्, जुन यो मङ्गल बजारको यो पाटन दरबारको सेरोफेरोभित्रै रहेको छ। जसमध्ये मणि आइटी भनेको काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाको लिच्छवीकालीन धारा हो, जसलाई मानदेवको नाति भारोबीले बनाएको भनेको अभिलेख कुदिएको छ। मङ्गल बजारको जुन मणि धारा हालसम्म अविरल 1500 वर्षदेखि अविरल रूपमा पानी बग्दै आएको र स्थानीयको सांस्कृतिक सामाजिक महत्त्वको रूपमा रहेको धारा हो। राजपूत कलामा इन्फ्लुएन्स भएको कलाले भरिपूर्ण भएको चाहिँ चित्रकला हो, जुन चाहिँ 16औं शताब्दीमा बनेको। यसमा विशेष गरी सिङ्गारको रूपमा कृष्णलीला सम्बन्धी त्यसको ड्रेस कोड, मल्लकालीन कस्तो ड्रेसहरू लाउँथ्यो, हुन त त्यसमा राजा आफै भएको चित्र पनि हो। त्यसमा सिद्धि नरसिंह मल्लको आफ्नो पोर्ट्रेट पनि जुन रहेको छ।
सुन्दरी चोकको सबसे मुख्य सुन्दर कुरा भनेको चाहिँ यस चोकमा रहेको यो सोसाइटी हो, जसमा चाहिँ यो तान्त्रिज्म अथवा तान्त्रिक देवी देवताहरूको चाहिँ बढी प्रभाव रहेको छ। र सोसाइटीमा चाहिँ जुन एउटा जसबाट चाहिँ उखु जस्तै मिठो पानी आउँछ भने त्यसको सोसाइटीसँगै वरपर रहेका तान्त्रिक देवी देवताका मूर्तिहरूले पनि सुन्दर चोकलाई सुन्दर बनाएको छ। यहाँ अर्को काष्ठकलाको रूपमा चाहिँ शिवलिङ्गहरू पनि रहेका छन्। यहाँ जहाँ चाहिँ 509वटा शिवलिङ्ग रहेका छन् भने तिनीहरूको नाम चाहिँ 501वटा जुन चाहिँ प्रचलित लिपिमा लेखिएको छ। र तपाईँले यहाँ शिवलिङ्गमा पनि उपत्यकाका 64वटा ज्योतिर्लिङ्गहरूको नामहरू पनि यहाँ पाउन सक्नुहुन्छ। राजा सिद्धि नरसिंह मल्ललाई चाहिँ हरेक टोलबाट चाहिँ उपहार स्वरूप काष्ठ झ्यालहरू जुन चाहिँ हरेक बुट्टाहरूले उत्कीर्ण एकदम राम्रो खालका रहेका छन्, जसले पनि सुन्दर चोकलाई सुन्दर बनाउन चाहिँ सहयोग गरेको छ। प्लस यहाँका टुडालहरूमा रहेका आकृतिहरू, इरोटिक आकृतिहरूदेखि लिएर विभिन्न नारी मूर्तिहरूले पनि यस सुन्दर चोकलाई चाहिँ सुन्दर बनाउन मद्दत गरेको छ। साथै यहाँ रहेका सिद्धि नरसिंह मल्लको खाट जुन चाहिँ ढुङ्गाबाट बनेको छ, जहाँ राजा सिद्धि नरसिंह मल्लले चाहिँ गर्मीमा पञ्चाग्नि तापेर र जाडोमा नाङ्गे बसेर तपस्या गर्दथे भन्ने
यसमध्ये मुख्य जात्रा भनेको भीमसेन जात्रा, गाई जात्रा, कृष्णाष्टमी, धेरै जात्राहरू छन्। सबभन्दा ठुलो जात्रा भनेको भीमसेन जात्रा हो। भीमसेन जात्रा ललितपुरको सबभन्दा ठुलो जात्रा, हाम्रो रथ मच्छिन्द्रनाथको रथ यात्रा पछिको ठुलो जात्रा हो। यसमा त यो श्रावण भाद्र महिनामा पर्दछ, कहिले श्रावणमा कहिले भाद्रमा पर्छ। यो कृष्णाष्टमीको कहिले भोलिपल्ट कहिले पर्सिपल्ट यो जात्रा
1736 मा काशी विश्वनाथ मन्दिरमा मुगल बादशाहले आक्रमण गरेका थिए। आक्रमण गरेको बेलामा काठमाडौँ पनि खबर पुग्यो, यहाँ मुसलमानले काशी विश्वनाथमा काशी नगरमा आक्रमण गर्न लागेको छ भनेर यहाँको हिन्दूहरूलाई पनि बडो चोट लाग्यो। अनि यहाँको हिन्दू भागीरथ यहाँ उहाँहरू चाहिँ नेपालको फौज सङ्कलन गरेर अब हामी बनारसमा गएर लड्न जाने, हामी विश्वनाथ मन्दिर बचाउने, काशीलाई बचाउने भनेर फौज जम्मा गरेर उतातिर हिँडे। अनि जाँदै गर्दै मकवान पुगेपछि उहाँहरूले के खबर आयो, काशी त ध्वस्त पारिसक्यो, जितिसक्यो औरङ्गजेबले, काशी विश्वनाथ पनि ध्वस्त पारिसक्यो भनेपछि लौ अब हामी लड्न जाने भनेको त्यसैको लागि हो। अब लडिसक्यो, सबै स्याक गरिसक्यो, काशी नै नष्ट गरिसक्यो भनेपछि अब हामी गएर के काम, गए पनि हामी मर्न जाने मात्र, हामी हारिहाल्छौँ, हामीले केही गर्न सक्यो भने सबै खेतपूर्वक फर्केर आयो। फर्केर आएपछि भागिरहेको भैनाले मनमा के खेलिरह्यो भनेदेखि यो मेरो काम फत्ते भएन, काशीलाई बचाउन सकिएन। अब सानो फौज गइहाल्यो तर आकाङ्क्षा त ठुलो रहेछ भने। अनि उहाँले के सोच्नुभयो भने म नै यहाँ काशीको मन्दिर विश्वनाथ बनाउँछु।
मासु उभो गर्ने, बलि दिने यो गरिसकेपछि तलेजु भवानीमा नवमी र दशमीको दिनमा जसरी बलि दिन्छ त्यो बलि दिएको अब यहाँ रगरको आहालै बग्थ्यो। अब आजकल त 5वटा बग्यो, 5वटा राङ्गो मात्रै। पहिले 54वटा भन्थ्यो, भक्तपुरमा 54वटै दिन्थ्यो, काठमाडौँमा 54वटै राङ्गो बोका बलि दिन्छ अहिले पनि। तर पाटनमा चाहिँ अहिले 5-5वटा मात्रै बलि दिन्छ। अनि त्यो बलि दिइसकेपछि जुन खुँडा त्यो बलि दिँदाखेरि प्रयोग गर्ने सामानहरू जसरी रक्ताम्य हुन्छ नि, त्यो रक्ताम्य भएको भाँडाकुँडा, खुँडाहरू, तरबार, खुकुरी यो सबै चाहिँ नि तलेजु भवानीको तलेजु भवानी मन्दिरको पूर्वपट्टि रहेको जुन भण्डारखाल बगैँचा छ, बगैँचामा एउटा ठुलो पोखरी छ। त्यो पोखरीमा एउटा धारो एउटा पनि छ, त्यसमा ढुङ्गे डाँडा। त्यो ढुङ्गे डाँडामा आएको पानीले नै पखाल्नुपर्छ भनेर एउटा शिलालेखमै उल्लेख गरेको छ। अनि यो भण्डारखालमा त्यो पखालिसकेपछि जुन त्यो रगतको पानी अनि त्यसमा टाँसेको मासुहरू जुन त्यो पोखरीमा जान्छ, त्यो पोखरीमा चाहिँ माछा पालेको पनि हुन्छ। अनि त्यहाँ त्यतिखेर हाँस पाल्ने, माछा पाल्ने गर्थ्यो भन्ने चाहिँ अब सुन्नमा आएको छ। तर अहिले त्यसको केही अब प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण त छैन। अनि त्यो ठाउँमा सिद्धेन्द्रसिंह मल्ल र सिद्धेन्द्रसिंह मल्लको रानी, त्यसपछिको राजाहरू र रानीहरू त्यहाँ पोखरीमा अवलोकन गर्ने, त्यही ठाउँमा नुहाउने, त्यही ठाउँमा त्यो लुगा फेर्ने, यस्तो पनि यस्तो गर्ने व्यवस्था अनुरूप त्यो ठाउँ बनाएको छ। त्यो ठाउँलाई चाहिँ कलात्मक रूपबाट एउटा मूर्तिहरू पुरेर, मूर्ति दायाँ बायाँ तोरण राखेर विभिन्न कलाकृतिहरूले परिपूर्ण एउटा सानो कोठा एउटा बनाएको छ, बरन्डा जस्तो बनाएको छ। त्यो ठाउँमा बसेर चाहिँ नि अवलोकन गर्ने भन्ने राजाहरूले चाहिँ त्यस्तो गर्छ भनेर। अनि त्यो जुन राजा बसेर अवलोकन गर्ने छ त्यसको माथितिर एउटा गुम्बज जस्तो एउटा बार्दली जस्तो एउटा ठाउँ बनाएको छ। त्यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ नि रानी मात्रै जानु पाउने, अनि रानी बसेर अवलोकन गर्ने। अनि त्यहाँ तलेजुको पुजारीले पूजाआजा सकिसकेपछि प्रसाद दिनुको लागि अनि तलेजुको पुजारी एकजना जानु पाउने, रानी र तलेजुको पुजारी दुईजना मात्रै जानु पाउने भनेर शिलालेखमा उल्लेख गरेको थियो।
The war in the Middle East continues to escalate with multiple new developments. Iran's new supreme leader, Mustafa Khamenei, is reportedly safe and sound despite earlier claims of injuries, his son and government advisor said. Israeli strikes hit central Beirut, including residential areas, as Lebanese authorities report nearly 760,000 people displaced, while Iran reportedly fired missiles towards Israel, triggering the country's air defenses. Maritime tensions rose as cargo and container ships near the Strait of Hormuz and off the United Arab Emirates were struck by unknown projectiles, and the US said it destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia intercepted missiles and drones aimed at its military bases and oil infrastructure, and crude oil prices fell after reports of a proposed large release from global reserves. The U.S. military has released images showing strikes on several Iranian naval vessels, including 16 mine layers near the Strait of Hormuz, amid escalating conflict in the Middle East. President Donald Trump warned the operation could last longer than a month, with objectives to destroy Iran's missile, naval, and nuclear capabilities while stopping support for regional armed groups. The conflict has spread across the region, with Israeli strikes targeting Lebanon and Hezbollah, Iran-backed forces reportedly firing missiles towards Israel, and drones hitting the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. Maritime tensions remain high as the U.S. says it destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying boats, while Gulf states intercepted missiles and drones aimed at military bases and oil infrastructure. Casualties continue to rise, with U.S. Central Command reporting 6 American personnel killed, Iranian media citing hundreds of Iranian deaths, and Lebanese authorities reporting at least 52 killed in Israeli strikes on Beirut. Israeli strikes and evacuation orders have forced more than 100,000 people to flee their homes in Lebanon within a single day, the UN says. The figure is part of a large displacement of 700,000 people across the country in just over a week amid escalating conflict in the Middle East. Carolina Lindholm-Billing, UNHCR's Lebanon representative, told a press briefing in Geneva that lives have been upended on a massive scale.
Here is that lives have been upended on a massive scale. I mean, according to the Lebanese authorities, as of today, more than 667,000 people in Lebanon have now registered on the government's online platform as displaced. And this is an increase of 100,000 in just one day, and the numbers continue to rise.
At least 6 people have been killed and 5 others injured after a regional postal bus caught fire in Curzers in western Switzerland. Police say the fire broke out Tuesday evening in the canton of Fribourg, about 20 kilometers west of the Swiss capital Bern. 3 of the injured were taken to hospital with severe burns, while 2 others were treated at the scene. Authorities say early evidence suggests the blaze may have been caused by a deliberate act by someone on board the bus. A criminal investigation is now underway as officials work to determine the exact cause of the deadly fire. Russian strikes have killed 4 people and wounded at least 16 others in the eastern Ukrainian city of Sloviansk, regional authorities said. The city lies in the Donetsk region, a key frontline area where Russian forces have intensified attacks during the ongoing war with Ukraine. Officials said the strikes involved 3 guided aerial bombs that damaged residential buildings and destroyed several vehicles. Images released by Ukrainian police showed burnt-out cars and a heavily damaged Soviet-era apartment block following the attack. Russia, which launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, says it does not target civilians and claims the Donetsk region is part of its territory. Jose Antonio Cast is swearing in as Chile's president on March 11, becoming the country's most right-wing leader in more than 3 decades. The conservative politician won the election after pledging a tougher approach to rising violent crime and stricter immigration policies. Cast has vowed to deport hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants, many of them from crisis-hit Venezuela. A longtime lawmaker and founder of the Republican Party Chile, he has also drawn attention for strongly conservative views on issues such as abortion and same-sex marriage. His presidency begins as Chile, once considered one of Latin America's most stable countries, faces growing public concern over security and migration. Meanwhile, outgoing Chilean President Gabriel Boric delivered his final speech from the La Moneda Palace, pledging a seamless transition of power ahead of Jose Antonio Cast's inauguration. Boric urged unity and stability as the country prepares to shift to its most right-wing government in over 3 decades.
Pese a las tensiones de las últimas semanas y a partir de las conversaciones que he podido tener con quien mañana asumirá esta responsabilidad de la presidencia de la República, les aseguro.
Cast, who won a platform of tougher security measures and strict immigration policies, takes office amid debate over Chile's direction on social and economic issues. Dan Jorgensen, the European Union's energy chief, has urged member states to consider lowering taxes on electricity to help reduce consumer energy bills. Speaking at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, he said there is huge potential to ease costs if governments are able to cut energy taxes.
We have a very clear recommendation to the member states. If you are at all able to lower taxes on energy, especially on electricity, there is a huge potential. In average, the potential for energy bills in Europe would be a saving of €200 per year by lowering the taxes.
Jorgensen's comments come as global oil and gas prices rise due to tensions and conflict in the Middle East, raising concerns about higher energy bills across European Union countries. Wednesday marks 15 years since the Great East Japan earthquake devastated Japan's northeast, triggering a massive tsunami and one of the world's worst nuclear accidents at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. The magnitude 9.0 quake on March 11, 2011 swept waves over 10 meters high across the region, killing 19,711 people and leaving 2,519 missing. Since then, the Japanese government has invested over 41 trillion yen, around $260 billion in reconstruction, including roads, ports, seawalls, and land-raising projects. Despite these efforts, more than 26,000 households in Iwate, Miyagi, and Fukushima still live in temporary public housing, many of them elderly and isolated. As Japan enters a third reconstruction and revitalization period, officials plan to focus on mental health and community rebuilding, even as concerns grow about the long-term sustainability of recovery efforts. Hundreds of pounds of luxury ingredients including caviar, black truffle, sushi and tomahawk steak have been flown into Hollywood ahead of the annual Academy Awards after party this Sunday. The lavish celebration, known as the Governor's Ball, will host newly crowned Oscar winners and other A-list celebrities after the ceremony. Celebrity chef Wolfgang Puck, who has overseen the event's menu for more than 3 decades, says his team will prepare around 25,000 small plates for guests. The menu includes dishes ranging from sushi and macaroni and cheese to premium steaks alongside champagne, sake, and specialty cocktails. Guests will also be served thousands of chocolate desserts shaped like the iconic Oscar trophy as they celebrate Hollywood's biggest night. Penguins at Edinburgh Zoo have been delighting in colourful pebbles painted by children from the Royal Hospital for Children and Young People, marking the start of the birds' breeding season. During this period, penguins collect pebbles to build nests, an essential part of raising their chicks. The initiative allowed young patients to watch the penguins select and play with the stones in real time via a live webcam, bringing the animals closer to the hospital. The activity was organised by the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland as part of its educational and community engagement programs. Such interactive experiences help teach children about animal behavior and conservation while offering a fun and therapeutic connection to wildlife.
Votekosi and Trisuli river rafting. Rafting has lately been gaining popularity among tourists. The adventure sport, which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trisuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are 2 popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included among the 10 best adventure destinations for rafting in the world. Votekosi, which is well facilitated with food and accommodation, can be a great destination for rafting and other adventure sports. Rafting at Trisuli River is popular among domestic tourists, as the location can be reached in an hour from Kathmandu. This is where most tourists go for rafting in Nepal. Rafting packages of Votekosi and Trisuli are appropriate for those who want to spend some good time for a few days.
Dai Lake in Karnali province is a geographically remote district, yet rich with untapped potential for tourism. Stepping into Dai Lake, celebrated as a treasure trove of Khas art, culture and heritage, brings a unique sense of joy. Journey begins amid its natural beauty, leading us toward Mahabu Rural Municipality. As we leave the mid-hill highway, the terrain becomes challenging, with hilly, muddy roads demanding patience and skill. Long lines of vehicles crawl carefully along the cliffs, reflecting both the difficulty of the route and the enduring devotion of Mahabu Dham. Many travelers choose to continue on foot, advancing step by step toward their destination. Passing through Channa, Dasarathi, Okharbans, Bhavsaini, Noli and Unipata, pilgrims ascend the slopes toward Lisne before finally reaching Mahabu Patan. Pilgrims from Dai Lake and nearby districts often arrive late at night, having begun their journey the previous day. The path to Mahabu Dham is thrilling, adventurous and breathtaking, made even more dramatic by the steady rain, drifting fog and steep inclines. Yet the journey itself feels uniquely rewarding. Mahabu Lake or Mahabu Dham, located within Mahabu Rural Municipality, is a remarkable place of natural beauty, religious significance and cultural heritage. Situated at an altitude of 4,200 meters, the area is adorned with emerald lakes, grazing flocks of sheep and goats, and a sky that dances with Himalayan mist. Every year, during Janai Purnima, a grand fair is held here, drawing thousands of devotees from across the region. Mahabu Dham's spiritual importance is deeply rooted in the ancient worship of Lord Shiva, revered here as the origin site. From Mahabu Lake, visitors can enjoy magnificent views of Api and Saipal Himal, and on clear days, even the plains of Bardia. Given its religious importance and natural splendor, Mahabu Dham holds immense potential as a religious tourism destination. Improving the rough, narrow access roads is essential for supporting this growth. Mahabu Dham is more than a pilgrimage site. It is a confluence of culture, history, faith, and nature. To truly appreciate its significance, one must visit Mahabu Lake at least once, immerse oneself in its natural beauty, and experience the serene environment that leaves a lasting impression. Trimmed mustache, mirrored shades, and an unmistakable smile, Tenzing Norgay Sherpa climbs a steep hill in Khumbu. It's May 1991. After 38 years, he's returning to meet his old climbing partner, Sir Edmund Hillary, the man with whom he first stood atop the world.
Tenzing, good to see you. My goodness. Well, yeah. Hi, Dickie. How are you? Nice to meet you.
A long time, Tenzing. Good to see you again.
Yes, isn't he? Did you have a good walk up?
Oh, very well.
Good.
Fine.
Sagarmatha, head of the sky. Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world, or simply Mount Everest. A mountain with many names, yet for generations it meant only one thing: the impossible. Since the 1920s, climbers from around the world had tried to conquer it. Many never returned. Avalanches, storms, frostbite, the mountain refused them all. Then on 29 May 1953, Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa of Nepal stood together on top of the world. The world woke up to the headline, "Everest is conquered."
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. Mount Everest has been conquered by members of the British expedition. The news reached London in a message to the Times. It said that Mr. E.P. Hillary, a New Zealander, and Tenzing Bhutia, a Sherpa, had reached the summit last Friday, May 29th.
Among the 35 men in the team that made history was Kancha Sherpa, the last surviving member of that expedition. He passed away in October 2025. He remembered the climb as hard but joyful.
समुल्लोंगमु बना हामीले सुनेको छ हामी के काममा जाने त्यहाँ जाने कामै थिएन अब यहाँको मान्छेहरू चाहिँ तल लोबेजसम्म बस्छ त्यहाँबाट त हामी जाने कामै छैन अनि तेन्जिङहरू त हेरेर आएर बु माथि अनि एभरेस्ट चाहिँ हामीलाई थाहा पायो नभए हाम्रो गाउँै भए पनि हामीलाई के जाने कामै छैन गाह्रो भयो हजुर मलाई गाह्रो त के जानु नस्याङ्ने के अब कहिले पनि जस्तो काम गरेको छैन त पनि त बारे बोकेर त खरबासमा जानु पर्यो यहाँ हातमा डोरहरू समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ आइसा समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ बारे थुप्रो बोकेर जानु पर्यो अनि त साङ्गुमा जानु पर्यो अनि माथि जुरेर जानु पर्यो अनि गाह्रो त एकदम गाह्रो छ तर यस्तो काम पाएर धेरै खुसी भयो नि
Hillary loved Khumbu and Khumbu loved Hillary. He dedicated his life for the region and its people. In the decades that followed, Everest became a symbol of determination, not just for men, but for everyone who dared to dream. In 1993, Pasang Lamu Sherpa became the first Nepali woman to stand on the summit. Her journey was marked by courage and struggle.
पैसा हुनु पर्यो यसमा आफूले लगानी गरेर खर्च गर्नु पर्यो रोयल्टी तिर्नु पर्यो अब आफूले सँगै लानु गुरुबहरुलाई चाहिँ खानाहरु हुनु पर्यो लुगाहरु इक्विपमेन्टको पैसाहरु हुनु पर्यो त्यसकारणले चाहिँ यो पैसाले नै पैसाकै समस्याले गर्दाखेरि पनि अगाडि बढ्न नसकेको हो तर यहाँ एउटा ट्रेनिङको महिलाहरुलाई चाहिँ यो माउन्टेन ह्याली क्षेत्रमा एउटा ट्रेनिङको व्यवस्था बन्दोबस्त पनि त्यति साह्रो राम्रो छैन.
For some, the climb is a personal test. For others, it's a way to uplift an entire nation. Of the many record holders from Nepal, Apa Sherpa, who's also known as the Super Sherpa, had reached the summit 21 times before announcing his retirement.
म यो रेकर्डको लागि चल्ने भए त म आज पनि चल्न सकिन्छु नि तर म रेकर्डको लागि होइन मैले हाम्रो देशको लागि हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि माथि पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसा भनौँ न अब पुरा नै हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि भनौँ पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसाको हो तर त्यो लास्टमा म चढिरहेयो भने त्यो त तपाईँको उस जस्तो देखिन्छ कि कम्पिटिसन जस्तो देखिन्छ कि मलाई त्यो मेरो चाहिँ नि त्यो कम्पिटिसन होइन र म राष्ट्रको लागि हो त्यसैले मैले अब 2011 देखि मैले सन्यास लिएर अपा शेर्पा फाउन्डेसन खोलेर शिक्षा सबभन्दा इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ के छ हाम्रो शिक्षा एजुकेसन छैन भने हामीलाई धेरै गाह्रो छ मैले खैराहरूले पनि भन्दैछु विदाउट एजुकेसन वी हेभ नो चोइस एजुकेसन इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ त्यसपछि हाम्रो वातावरण त्यसैले हाम्रो नेपालको लागि म त्यो दुईवटालाई जोडेर मैले सपोर्ट गरिरहेको छु.
Over time, the story of Everest has changed. Each climbing season now brings not only adventurers, but also income and impact. In 2024, Everest generated nearly 676 million Nepali rupees, almost 80% of Nepal's total mountaineering revenue. The fee for foreign climbers has been revised now to $15,000 each. So far, more than 8,000 summiteers of different nationalities have climbed Mount Everest. Many more aspire to reach the top of the world. To ease the pressure on Everest and promote other regions, the government of Nepal has opened 97 peaks that range from 5,970 meters to 7,123. One can climb these mountains in the Western Karnali and Sudur Paschim provinces without having to pay royalties. As voices increase for the need of having summited at least one mountain over 7,000 meters in the country before bidding for the Everest, these 97 peaks are likely to be training ground for summiteers. With success, Everest has also seen a heavy burden. In 2023 alone, more than 75 tons of waste were collected from the Everest region. This included plastic, metal, oxygen bottles, and even human waste. The mountain has also been plagued by fatal climbing attempts.
यसपालिको भन्दाखेरि त अब लास्ट इयरको पनि मरेको लासहरू अझै पनि छन् माथि बाटोमै पनि त्यो लासहरू देखे हामीले यो 8,300-400 मिटरमा बालकुनीमा त्यो लासहरू पनि अझै भइरहेछ र फोहोरहरू पनि सजकलमा पनि टन्नै फोहोरहरू छ पहिला हामीले अब शहरमा त आरोग्य पनि 2011 मा सफा त गर्यो त्यत्रो फोहोर ल्याए 10 टन फोहोर पनि धेरै नै ल्याएको त्यतिखेर त्यति ल्याउँदा पनि अझै फोहोरहरू चाहिँ एकदमै छ भनौं न टाइममा अब राज्यले चाहिँ किन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति व्यवस्था के अब कुन हिसाबले हुन्छ त्यो फोहोरलाई अलिकति तल ल्याएर अलिकति सफा गर्यो भने एभरेस्टको लागि अलिकति विदेशीहरुको लागि अलि राम्रो होला कि भन्ने चाहिँ हामीलाई लागेको छ.
Sagarmatha has taught the world to dream higher, but now she asks us to care deeper. The greatest climb perhaps isn't upward, but inward. "70 years since the first ascent, much has changed, but one thing has and will remain constant. Everest has and will continue to stand tall and keep challenging human abilities."
music all over the world is I think it's a universal language, you know. And basically, when it comes to musicians like us, we really get connected when somebody from some part of the music from different part of the world can go well together, and we can do so many different things, you know, because we come from different culture, we come from different perspectives in life, you know.
Started jamming together, and then we were asked to play a festival at the Pathan Museum called the Namlo Music Festival, Music and Heritage Festival, I believe it was called. And so we were asked to do that, and I said, okay, I'll put together a band with Prince. And then he called his old buddies from when he grew up jamming with them. I would play a bluegrass tune, and then they would say, oh, that sort of goes like this Nepali tune. And we would just go from one to the other, and then I would show them my songs, and we would do that. So that was 3 years ago now.
Joy and Prince has already said about it. Actually, they both first met each other. I mean, Joy knew Prince's father back in the US, and I was a struggling musician in Kathmandu, and I was friend with Mr. Prince Nepali, and we used to play in some other different bands as well. And once Joy and Prince, they both met, and Prince was like, are you interested in doing something new, something different rather than rock and pop music? What about some fusions and bluegrass and folk music? And he challenged me like, do you want to do it or not? And I was like, okay, I'm up for it. And then actually it's that kind of story.
Actually, I'm planning like I haven't done any like production or anything like this with this instrument, so I'm actually planning for like trying to fuse a different instrument and get some production of different like percussion instrument and our traditional composition. Not just Tibet, there are also different instruments like key, ta, and different folk instrument as well. So I think also I'm planning like to get collaborated with different folk artists and the traditional drummers to bring them together and then make some compositions or just play the already composed things and then just make out some videos and then share it maybe on some social platforms like this.
The music that we are doing right now is like a crossover between American bluegrass music and Nepali folk music. And actually, first of all, we came up with an idea of just playing with each other, just jamming together. And we found out that, okay, so this could work very nicely together. So I'm using like a traditional instrument, sarangi, and we're combining this with the mandolin that comes from the US and the bluegrass music. And I think my idea is basically to present it like my folk culture and my traditional songs, and also like go together with the American music. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be born in such like musical family. So being a fourth generation, I think I never felt the pressure. First of all, because I enjoyed what I was doing, and then more than that, I think it's basically the kind of fun that I have with music, and I think there's some different intimacy between me and music, So I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I really had great fun. So I've been working on different projects and trying to inspire the youth at the moment in my life. So I have this project called Sarangi Ghar, where I basically have like classes. We also have the store. We do produce sarangi, and I think it's also encourages me to explore with the instrument itself, and the culture itself, because it's so beautiful. And like Nepal being so rich in culture and tradition, I want to like collaborate with different artists, folk artists in Nepal, and all from the world actually, and create different kind of new music with different caste and ethnic groups here in Nepal. They also have their own traditional instruments, folk instrument, you know. And I think you must like find a way to have fun with it actually. And then I think more than anything else, actually, the youths can just enjoy what they have been like with the music itself. And I really actually want them to explore Nepali music more, you know. Youth can basically have like an opportunity where they can just go explore, you know, find an instrument. We have tungna, we have sarangi, we have many other instruments. Like if you go in the western part of Nepal, you have like far western part, you have hudke baza, you know, and there's lots of binayo and everything. And I find panche baza is interesting as well. So, you know, everybody can explore like whatever interest they have. They don't have to take it very professionally. They can just enjoy with it actually. Himalayan Highway is like it's a music that's crossed between the Nepali folk and American bluegrass music. So today we'll be presenting mostly the fusion of like the instrumental thing, and we will be singing a few of our original songs. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy.
चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई पानी परेको बादलहरू अझै पनि माथि माथि घामको न्यानो स्पर्शसँगै इन्द्रेणीको रङ्ग पनि त्यही सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मन मेरो खुला आकाशै भरिएको छ जुन र ताराले आफ्नो खुसी यहाँ आफै खुसी उडी जान्छु हावा बनी सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँगै हो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सररर उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँगै यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई
Actually, our first name was Manaslu Blue. The blue was for bluegrass, and then Manaslu was for Nepal. But then I was, about a year in, I was brainstorming with my parents, and our goal with the band is to bring it abroad. I come from my perspective of American folk music, and these guys bring their wonderful Nepali folk music. And I think the goal of the band is to share this amazing fusion and to show people especially how amazing Nepali folk music is and how much we can do these cross-cultural collaborations. But the thing about Manaslu Blue is that no one outside of Nepal knows the mountain Manaslu. So then I was thinking with my dad, and somehow we came to Himalayan Highway. Highway is a very American thing, and there are a lot of bluegrass bands, Blue Highway, Golden Highway, so it's a common name. And then we thought Himalayan to talk about Nepal and the region. Well, first of all, I just fell in love with Nepali culture. I love momos, I love dal bhat, I love it all. I love this beautiful country. We want to show more people the beautifulness of Nepal. I think that from my perspective, I love Nepali folk music, but in this country, sometimes people haven't valued it. They've looked to the West for other influences. And so one of our goals is to bring up Nepali folk and fusing it. We're not just doing pure folk music, but to show that this is a vibrant, evolving history and tradition that is still relevant today. And then I also think to people abroad, and especially to Nepalis, I want to show them that they can take their instruments and their culture and they can bring it to the world, and that it's so amazing. I mean, everyone who I know that maybe they don't know so much about Nepal, maybe the only thing they know is that Mount Everest is there. But then once they try a momo, once they hear some music, then they love it. And so we want to just share this music with more people and share the cross-cultural collaboration.
Cause all day I chug
book and try to shove down all of the hurt. But sometimes at the end, does it fade on the page, and my eyes just run a glaze. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. And I say, hallelujah, 'cause I can finally feel something. And is there ever an end to this breathless whirlwind? Is there even a point of it all? 'Cause at the end of the day, just us back in the fray on this rugged, snowy road. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. And I say, hallelujah, 'cause I can finally feel something instead of just nothing at all. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. And I say, hallelujah, 'cause I can finally feel something instead of just nothing at all. There's a guy on the stage, and he's playing the guitar the wrong way around. And I also have to tell you that that's not his main instrument, in fact. His main instrument is the piano, but he also slays at the guitar. That's Mr. Enes Tamang.
Nowadays, I think many young generations, upcoming generations, like they are more over into like different. I mean, it doesn't mean to demean it, but people are more over into different kind of music rather than our own cultural music. And I think promoting like this, like promoting through our own traditional instrument like sarangi and tabla, and maybe fusing it. Of course, it's not like we don't utilize the Western culture. Also, we utilize it, but we should not forget like our own roots, our own culture. So yeah, I think it's important so that we could carry the legacy as well of our own musical instruments and our own culture as well. Our brand is like, it's like the main goal is to like, of course, promoting the folk culture, our own tradition and culture music, and with a unique taste, of course, as mentioned earlier. And I want to encourage you all to do music, like never give up. Like in some point of life, like we are doing it as a professionally, and some people might be like demotivated, or they might be like in confusion also whether should they pursue the music as their career or not. But I suggest them just do it. I know there is going to be ups and downs, there is going to be struggle, a lot of struggles, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And yes, of course, don't forget to promote their own culture as we are doing. We just wrote a song like few days ago, and it was so random, but it turned out so beautiful. It's called Samjana Bho, and it's a Nepali, like Prince wrote it. It's a Nepali song, but we are fusing it with the American bluegrass thing. And recently, it's the favorite. Not because it's just written in few days ago, but it has a very good meaning.
स्टोरी चाहिँ चाइल्डहुड लभ स्टोरीको बारेमा हो, जहाँ चाहिँ दुईजना साथीहरू चाहिँ एकदमै स्कुल टाइमको लभदेखि नै धेरै अगाडि बढिसकेपछि चाहिँ एउटा पोइन्टमा चाहिँ जुन चाहिँ केटी साथी हुन्छ ऊ चाहिँ 4-5 वर्षको लभपछि चाहिँ हराउँछ र त्यो हराएको बेलामा चाहिँ केटाले चाहिँ धेरै थुप्रै प्रयासहरू गर्छ खोज्नलाई चाहिँ तर कहिले पनि भेट्न सक्दैन र पछि हिँड्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब 5 इयर्स पास भइसकेपछि चाहिँ अगाडि गएर हिँड्दै बाटोतिर हिँड्दाखेरि चाहिँ उसले झसङ्ग एकजना चिनेको अनुहार देख्छ है अनि चिनेको अनुहार देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ उसलाई चाहिँ अब उसले पहिला भेटेको मान्छे चाहिँ अलिकति चेन्ज भएको रहेछ तर अगाडि जानलाई चाहिँ ऊ अगाडि बढिसकेको हुन्छ तर त्यहाँ चाहिँ एउटा सानो बच्चाले चाहिँ त्यो केटीको हात समाएर हिँडिरहेको हुन्छ जुन चाहिँ उसको छोरी हुन्छ केटा चाहिँ अब अगाडि बढ्न सक्दैन र त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ यो गीतको सुरुवात हुन्छ सम्झना सम्झना
Well, there's one person who has actually the most microphones, but no vocal mic. He's got a master's in tabla performance, and he's just an amazing percussionist, Mr. Yusuf Maharjan.
So right now I'm using these three stone instruments. So basically, this instrument on my left side is called dhime. So this is our traditional ethnic Newari instrument. It's from Kathmandu Valley itself. Unique sound, actually. It's very bass boosted, and it's one of the very important instrument for our Kathmandu Valley, and it's used in most of the festivals. Like, you will barely see a festival where there is no dhime instrument. So I think the instrument that holds too many emotions of this valley and this country, it should be shared and should be known to the world. And speaking about this mandal and tabla, and also with the tabla, I would say, like, all of these three instruments these are one of the really old instrument of the world, I would say. Like, it's more than 1,000 years old instrument. So it's already like history living and the sounding of history, no? So I think it's really important that the Western music that's not even more than 500 years old is being too much exposed, and yet this more old and more dynamic instrument, not just dynamic, and also the compositions, the sound, the tonal quality, this instrument really needs highlight to the world. Yeah. At first, whatever generation is alive right now, so they must actually pass down this tradition and this instrument, how to play the instrument, how to blend this instrument with different musics that's available in the world right now, let's say. To be honest, I'm really proud right now because there is not too much like musicians who are promoting our own traditional music or our instruments. Lots of Nepali people and youngsters nowadays, like, they are too much into Western music, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think along with the Western music, I think we should also try to share our Nepali culture, Nepali music. And so this is one of our initiative to show the world, like, how can we fuse Nepali folk instruments music with the American bluegrass music, and show them the new taste, how they sound with the fusion of these two different music from different worlds.
Nepal government assures rescue of its citizens amid Middle East conflict. Nepal Airlines rescue flights begin tonight. Proportional representation vote results redraw House of Representatives landscape. RSP emerged as the largest party. Rashtriya Swatantra Party begins intensive internal consultations to chart course after sweeping election victory. UN General Assembly adopts Nepal proposed resolution to establish Global International Day of Well-being. International Energy Agency approves largest ever oil reserve release amid escalating Middle East tensions. And 7 members of Iranian women's football team granted protection visas after tour. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanama Rai, and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. The government of Nepal has said it is ready to rescue Nepali citizens wishing to return home due to ongoing Middle East conflict. Speaking at a press briefing in Singhadarwar, Foreign Minister Balananda Sharma said Nepali workers in the region are currently not at immediate risk, but the government remains on standby for evacuation if necessary. Meanwhile, the body of Diwa Shrestha from Gorkha, who died in an attack in the United Arab Emirates linked to Iran, has been handed over to his family. So far, 1 person has died and 15 others have been injured in the attack. Nepal has finalized its proportional representation vote count for the House of Representatives, signaling a major political shift. Rashtriya Swatantra Party emerged as the dominant force, securing 57 proportional seats and a massive lead in the popular vote. While Nepali Congress remains the second largest party despite a drop in its seat count, CPN Yamal fell to 3rd place with just 16 seats. The election also saw the rise of Shram Sanskriti Party as the new 5th largest power, while established Madhes-based parties like JSPN and Janamat Party failed to meet the electoral threshold, losing their parliamentary representation entirely. Rashtriya Swatantra Party has stepped up internal consultations as it prepares for the next phase following its sweeping performance in the parliamentary election. With the electoral equation now largely clear, senior leaders have begun intensive meetings to outline the party's priorities and strategy for government formation. Party's chair Ravi Lamichhane and Prime Ministerial candidate Balendra Shah held an intensive meeting at the party's headquarters in Kathmandu today. Discussions focused on governance priorities, parliamentary strategy, and the party's policy agenda. RSP is on track to dominate House of Representatives after securing a near majority votes. April 15 has been declared International Wellness Day. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted a resolution proposed by Nepal to mark an International Day of Well-being. The resolution designates April 15 to be observed globally each year. According to Nepal's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Lok Bahadur Thapa, the initiative promotes a broader understanding of health, not only the absence of disease, but overall physical, mental, social, cultural, emotional and environmental well-being. According to Krishna Prasad Dhakal, Chief of the Multilateral Affairs Division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, more than 40 countries have co-sponsored the initiative. Middle East tensions have reached a critical level as the International Energy Agency approves its largest ever release of 400 million barrels of oil to stabilize markets. This follows attacks on commercial ships near the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. military's destruction of 16 Iranian vessels suspected of laying mines. Regional conflict has expanded with Israeli strikes in Beirut and Iran, while Iran has targeted Israel with missiles. With drones causing injuries near Dubai airport and Saudi Arabia intercepting strikes on its oil facilities, the situation remains highly volatile for global energy infrastructure. Australia's Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke has confirmed that 7 members of the Iranian women's football team delegation have been granted protection visas in the country. Authorities say the remaining members of the delegation chose to return home after each was individually offered refuge before departing Australia.
In that situation, what we made sure of was there was no rushing. There was no pressure. Everything was about ensuring the dignity for those individuals to make a choice. Obviously, the one pressure we couldn't take away was the context. We couldn't take away the pressure of the context for these individuals, of what might have been said to them beforehand, what pressures they might have felt were there on other family members.
The situation has drawn international attention after some players declined to sing Iran's national anthem ahead of a televised match during their visit. The move was widely seen as a gesture of protest, highlighting the pressures faced by athletes representing Iran on the global stage. Now, coming up after the break, a major power shift in Nepal as Rashtriya Swatantra Party nears a rare 2/3 majority, leaving traditional parties with significant losses. We'll look at the massive gender representation challenge now facing the new leadership in our issue of the day. Stay with us. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. Welcome back. Time now for the issue of the day. Rashtriya Swatantra Party is on course for a near two-thirds majority in Nepal's House of Representatives as vote counting concludes. With 125 direct seats and about 58 expected under proportional representation, the party faces a key constitutional requirement: nominating mostly women to maintain the mandatory 33% female representation in Parliament. Sabika Shrestha reports.
Rashtriya Swatantra Party, the agent of the sweeping mandate, will not only have the burden of steering the country ahead, but the party's women lawmakers will also have to be the flag bearer in their gender in policy making. The party has secured 125 seats under the first-past-the-post system, in which 13 are women candidates. Under Nepal's constitution, every party must ensure at least 33% combined women representation in 2 houses of federal parliament. Interestingly, the party with almost two-thirds majority in the lower house will have no representation in the National Assembly. This means RSP will have to manage all the mandatory numbers of inclusive and proportional representation from within the House of Representatives. As per the projection, RSP will have 58 seats under the PR system, making it a collective strength of 183 in the lower house. Since only 13 of the 183 possible House of Representatives members of the party are women, the party will have to nominate women candidates in 48 of the 58 PR seats to maintain the 33% women representation criteria. In that case, RSP will have altogether 61 women lawmakers in the lower house of parliament. Moreover, the selected women candidates must meet the cluster-based distribution mandated by the law provision to ensure both gender balance and social inclusion.
There should be certainty of 33% women's representation in the federal parliament. They should respect the inclusion clusters. For example, women, 33% women, then accordingly Dalit, Janajatis, backward region, Muslim, etc. Khas area, according to their number of seats, they have to submit their candidates list. Otherwise, Election Commission makes them revise those lists again.
RSP meanwhile sees this mandatory provision and need to nominate more than 80% women under the PR system as an opportunity to balance the democracy by promoting women representation.
The constitution has demanded 33% representation of female in the parliament itself, right? But usually what happens is they are coming from the proportional seat, not from the direct election. But Rashtriya Swatantra Party had given maximum number of candidacy from the female side in direct election, right? Which was 16, which is itself less in number, which is only 11%. But still, out of 16 women, 13 of them have brought massive landslide victory. They are not only victorious but landslide victory. So I think this is a good realization that women leadership era has started. People have started accepting women leadership, coming to the gender equality. 33% is itself not enough. It should be 50%. So we will be definitely advocating for that. Having said that, before that, the 33% itself needs to be implemented for us, right? Because even the 33% has not been implemented.
Within the party, even the male winners are seeing this as the fresh mandate of the people and are eager to execute it according to the constitutional provisions.
जनताले 2/3 झन्डै मत दिए यो यसको अर्थ के हो भने जनताको ठुलो विश्वास छ, ठुलो भरोसा छ र यो परिवर्तनले मुलुकको जीवन र नागरिकको जीवनमा ठुलो परिवर्तन ल्याउँछ भन्ने उनीहरूले विश्वास गरेका छन्। एउटा चाहिँ स्थायी किसिमको सरकार नभएसम्म मुलुकमा विकास नहुँदो रहेछ, मुलुकको विकास समितिको यात्रा अगाडि नबढ्दो रहेछ भन्ने हिजोको अनुभवले आज यसपटक जनताले तिमीहरूलाई हामी स्थायी सरकार दिन्छौँ, स्थायी नेतृत्व दिन्छौँ, काम गर भनेर हामीलाई म्यान्डेट त दिइसक्यो हैन। अब यो म्यान्डेट पाइसकेपछि जनताको अपेक्षा अनुरूप हामीले सुशासन कायम गर्ने कुरामा र भ्रष्टाचार नियन्त्रण गर्ने र हिजोका दिनमा भएका भ्रष्टाचारहरूको खोजबिन गर्ने कुरामा हामीले सक्रियताका साथ काम गर्नुपर्छ। यदि त्यो क्षेत्रमा हामीले काम गर्न सकेनौँ भने फेरि जनताले हामीलाई अविश्वास गर्नेछन्।
The Election Commission is expected to submit the final report of the March 5 election to President Ramchandra Paudel within a week as the counting of votes has concluded. Public expectations are that the robust presence of women in the lower house of the parliament will not only to fulfill the constitutional provisions but also to make the representation inclusive and proportional in real terms. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Samir Thapa reporting for NTV World.
As Rashtriya Swatantra Party prepares to form its new government, the big question on everyone's mind is how should the party select its cabinet members? We hit the streets to hear opinions. Let's have a look.
अब को व्यक्ति स्वास्थ्य मन्त्रीमा राम्ररी गर्न सक्छ जस्तै हामीनिर एमबीबीएस डाक्टर छ, एमडी डाक्टर छ, त्यसै गरी अर्थमन्त्रीहरुमा हामीनिर विज्ञहरू छ, त्यो टोली अनुसार राख्दा एकदमै बेटर हुन्छ। एउटा दक्ष मान्छे जसमा क्षमता छ त्यति गर्न सक्ने एउटा क्यापेबल भएका व्यक्तिलाई हामीले छनौट गर्यो भने बेटर राम्रो हुन्छ र राम्रो रिजल्ट आउँछ।
एकदम राम्रो पढे लेखेको घुसघास नखाने अरु यो देश बनाऊ भन्ने यस्तो मान्छेलाई चाहिँ उहाँहरूले अगाडि चुनेर आफ्नो ठाउँमा ल्याउनु पर्छ। अहिले जसरी अर्को यो भनौं देशमा अब हामी यत्रो जनताले एकदम खरो भएर प्यास लागे चाहिँ गरेर सारा घण्टी स्वतन्त्रलाई खनाइदिएपछि जनताले यत्रो आशा गरेपछि दुईजना मिलेर बालिन र अनिखेर सभापति रवि लामिछानेज्यू मिलेर चाहिँ यो जनताको अपेक्षाहरू पूर्ण गर्नुपर्छ।
मन्त्रालय भनेको चाहिँ जम्मा 14 देखि 18वटा मात्रै मन्त्रालय हुन्छ। अब विज्ञताको आधारमा हेर्ने हो भने त्यहाँ विज्ञहरूको पनि त्यहाँ कम्पिटिसनै हुन्छ। जस्तो डाक्टरहरूलाई चाहिँ के छ भने स्वास्थ्य मन्त्री बनाउने भन्ने कुरा छ। डाक्टरहरू त धेरै हुनुहुन्छ नि त। जस्तो हाम्रो तोसिमा कार्की पनि एउटा चाहिँ स्वास्थ्य मन्त्रालयको लागि चाहिँ एकदम क्वालिफाइड क्यान्डिडेट हो। भनेपछि उहाँलाई एकजनालाई त्यहाँ राख्ने भने अरू बाँकी डाक्टरहरू चाहिँ के गर्ने त? 5 वर्षसम्म फेरि बिचमा चेन्ज हुँदै जाने भन्ने कुरा त भएन। अरू चुपचाप बस्ने भन्ने कुरा नि भएन भने त्यसमा चाहिँ एकजना चाहिँ डाक्टरलाई चाहिँ एकजना मन्त्रालय दिने भने मन्त्रालयमा चाहिँ एकजना डाक्टर गइसकेपछि त्योसँग विज्ञ मान्छेहरू अरू कति हुनुहुन्छ उहाँको टिममा हालिदिनु पऱ्यो क्या। एकजनाको मात्रै डिसिजन नहोस् कि 5 जना डाक्टरहरूको हुनुहुन्छ भने त्यहाँ चाहिँ 5 जना डाक्टरहरूको एउटा टिम बनोस्, तर मन्त्रालयमा मन्त्रीको नाम चाहिँ एकजनाको आओस्।
हाम्रो यो देशलाई शान्ति रूपमा र व्यवस्था परिवर्तन गरेर र यो लघुवित्त र साउ महाजन पीठलाई पनि कल्याण हुने गरी र यिनीहरूको चाहिँ दुःखलाई सम्झने गरी अध्ययन गरी हाम्रो देशलाई जसरी शान्ति हुन्छ र 2500-3000 वर्षदेखि शोषण र पीडितमा परेको जुन व्यक्ति छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ बचाउनु खालको लागि हाम्रो देशमा प्रधानमन्त्री हुनु पर्यो। र जुन प्रधानमन्त्रीले अहिलेको प्रधानमन्त्री नयाँ प्रधानमन्त्री जो राम्रो भएन भने जुन दासा अहिले पुरानो दलको भएछ त्यो अगाडि चुनावमा त्यस्तै दासा उहाँहरूको पनि हामी यो स्वतन्त्र पार्टीको हुन्छ।
जुन 21 गते र 22 गते जुन देशमा आन्दोलन भयो त्यो आन्दोलनबाट हाम्रो जेन्जी साथीहरू धेरै चाहिँ शहीद हुनुभयो। त्यो शहीदको कदर गरेर अब सरकार बन्नु, पहिला धेरै भ्रष्ट सरकार बन्यो, अब एकदम राम्रो सरकार राम्रो छविको अहिलेको सरकार बन्नुमा धेरै हाम्रो जेन्जी समूहको पनि जितेर आउनुभएको छ। उहाँहरूलाई चान्स दिनुपर्छ र राम्रो योग्य मान्छेलाई मात्रै मन्त्री परिषदमा हाल्नुपर्छ। अब बुढापाकाहरूलाई रिटायर गरेर, किनकि अब देशलाई छिटो विकास गर्नुपर्छ र छिटो प्रगतिको बाटोमा लिएर जानुपर्छ।
भ्रष्टाचार बलात्कार गर्ने मान्छेलाई चाहिँ तपाईँको कानुनी कारबाहीमा चाहिँ ल्याउन सक्ने मान्छे चाहिँ तपाईँको मन्त्री बन्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। तपाईँको योग्य भएर हुँदैन, विज्ञ भएर हुँदैन। जुन चाहिँ अहिले तपाईँको जनताहरूले भोट दिएको छ नि, तपाईँको अहिले यति बेला चाहिएको भने तपाईँको बलात्कारी र अनि भ्रष्टाचारीलाई चाहिँ तपाईँको कानुनी घेरामा ल्याएर चाहिँ तपाईँको जेल कोच्यो भने तब जनताहरू खुसी हुन्छ। यही हो मेरो चाहिँ।
सबैले पहिलाको जस्तो मन्त्रीमण्डल चाहेको छैन। अब भनेको भिजन भएको, विज्ञता, आफ्नो चाहिँ विषयमा जो मन्त्री बन्छ त्यो विषयमा चाहिँ विज्ञता हासिल गरेको नै जनताले चाहिरहेछ। किन भन्दा तिनीहरूबाट चाहिँ काम चाँडो हुनसक्छ, धेरै अरूसँग चाहिँ सल्लाह लिइरहनु पर्दैन।
The number of parties crossing Nepal's proportional representation threshold has dropped from 7 to 6. It signals a dramatic reshaping of political power. Rashtriya Swatantra Party has surged to the top with 57 seats, while traditional giants like CPN-UML and Nepali Congress face steep losses. Aprila Kisinglama takes a closer look.
Nepal's political landscape is shifting after the latest results from the House of Representatives election under the proportional representation system, with the Rashtriya Swatantra Party emerging as the largest force while the CPN-UML records a major decline. Preliminary vote counts show the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, RSP, making a dramatic leap from the previous election. In 2022, the party secured 13 proportional seats and ranked 4th. This time, it has surged to 57 seats, becoming the largest party under the proportional representation system. The Nepali Congress remains in second place, although with reduced numbers. The party had won 32 proportional seats in the 2022 election, but that figure has now dropped to 20 seats, even as it retains its position as the second largest party. For the CPN-UML, which topped the proportional vote in the last election, the results mark a significant setback. The party previously secured 34 seats but has now fallen sharply to 16, pushing it down to third place. The shift in seats reflects a broader change in voter support. RSP has gained millions of additional votes compared with the previous election, rising from about 1.12 million votes in 2022 to more than 5 million votes in the current count. By contrast, the Nepali Congress has lost nearly 900,000 votes, while the CPN-UML has seen a decline of around 1.3 million votes. Smaller parties have also faced challenges. Two Madhesh-based parties, the Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal and the Janamat Party, failed to win any direct seats and were unable to cross the proportional representation threshold. As a result, both parties will be absent from the new House of Representatives. Their exit has opened the door for a new entrant. The recently formed Shram Sanskriti Party, which emerged from eastern Nepal, has crossed the threshold and secured national party status, entering parliament as the fifth largest party. The Maoist Centre has also seen its representation shrink, dropping from 17 proportional seats in the previous election to 8 in the latest results. Meanwhile, the Rashtriya Prajatantra Party has lost around 250,000 votes compared with the last election and slipped from 5th to 6th place under the proportional system. In the 2022 election, 7 parties had crossed the proportional threshold to become national parties. This time, the number has fallen to 6, reflecting both the decline of some established parties and the rise of new political forces. With the results nearly finalized, the proportional vote is expected to reshape the balance of power in Nepal's parliament and influence the formation of the next government.
That wraps up our issue of the day. Nepal's Election Commission has said the number of invalid ballots has increased in the recent House of Representatives election despite extensive voter education campaigns. According to the Commission, around 5.42% of votes cast in the election were declared invalid. This is slightly higher than the 5.18% recorded in the 2022 parliamentary election. Authorities say voter education programs were conducted across local governments, including mobilizing community health volunteers to raise awareness on the voting process. However, the figures suggest the campaigns were not fully effective. Madhesh province recorded the highest rate of invalid ballots, this time rising to nearly 10%. In contrast, Manang district reported the lowest rate at just over 1%. Experts say reducing invalid ballots is important to ensure voters' choices are properly reflected in election results. Nepal's Election Commission has said thousands of candidates who contested under the first-past-the-post system in the recent parliamentary election have lost their security deposits. According to the Commission, 2,890 candidates failed to secure the minimum vote threshold required to retain their deposits. Among them, 350 candidates did not receive a single vote. Under Nepal's election law, candidates must secure at least 10% of the total valid votes cast in their constituency to reclaim their deposit. Only 516 candidates met that requirement. Several prominent figures were also unable to retain their deposits, including former ministers and former provincial leaders from major parties. The Commission has said deposits from candidates who fail to meet the threshold are transferred to the state treasury. Now, thousands of Nepali migrant workers from Kailali who returned home to cast their votes in the recent parliamentary elections are now heading back to India. Their journey highlights urgent calls for better local employment and accessible healthcare from citizens who crossed borders to fulfill their democratic right. Aprila Kising Lama brings us more.
Many Nepali citizens who returned home to vote in the March 5 election are now heading back to India for work as the voting process has concluded. Large numbers of migrant workers had travelled from different parts of India to their hometowns to exercise their democratic right. But with the election over, many have once again begun crossing back into India through border points in Nepal's Sudur Paschim province to continue their works abroad. For years, thousands of Nepalis have relied on jobs in neighboring India due to limited employment opportunities at home. Many of them return to Nepal temporarily to cast their votes, but say they have little choice but to migrate again for work. Some citizens who were receiving medical treatment in India had also returned home to participate in the election. With the election concluded, many Nepalis are once again leaving the country for employment, healthcare and other necessities. Some travelers, however, report facing difficulties at the border due to lack of proper documents.
त्यस्तै भाग भागले आया हो पैसा पनि ल्याएको थियो गाईको छुट्टी पनि मागेर छुट्टी पनि मागेर आए त्यस्तै आया हो म
The outbound Nepalese say the new government should prioritize creating employment opportunities and improve access to affordable and quality healthcare so citizens no longer have to rely on foreign countries for work or medical treatment. April Singh Lama with local correspondent Sitaram Oja from Kailali.
Coming up next, the government launches a major rescue effort as conflict in the Middle East intensifies. We'll have the latest on the first Nepal Airlines evacuation flight set to land in Kathmandu tomorrow morning and the heartbreaking return of a young worker from Gorkha. Plus, as air travel slowly resumes after a 12-day blackout, find out how tens of thousands of Nepalis are now registering for emergency evacuation by sea. Our cover story after this break. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Welcome back. Time now for our cover story of the day. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has stated that the government of Nepal will rescue Nepali citizens who wish to return home due to the conflict in the Middle East. Speaking at a press conference held today at Singhadarbar, Foreign Minister Balananda Sharma said Nepali workers currently residing in Middle Eastern countries are not at immediate risk.
दुःख परेर काम गर्न गएको त्यसकारणले दुःखमा पनि काम गरेर रेमिटेन्स पठाउँछु भनेर गएको हुनाले धेरैको मानसिकता चाहिँ फर्किने छैन हुँदैन फेरि नेपाल गयो भने फर्केर आउनु पर्छ भन्ने मानसिकता पनि छ.
Meanwhile, the body of 29-year-old Diwa Shrestha from Gorkha, who died in an attack linked to Iran in the UAE, has been handed over to his family.
एकापट्टि त्यो छ भने अर्कोपट्टि चाहिँ नि यो
So far, the attack has resulted in the death of one person and injuries to 15 others. Meanwhile, Nepali diplomatic missions in Gulf countries have requested assistance for the rescue of Nepali nationals living there. The ministry has stated that if necessary, Nepali workers affected by the ongoing conflict in the Middle East could be evacuated by sea. Nepali missions are also working to establish contact with citizens affected by the conflict. According to the ministry, a total of 63,570 individuals have registered their details on the online portal of the consular department. Efforts are currently underway to reach those who may be in unsafe situations through Nepali diplomatic missions. Nepal Airlines has announced a special rescue flight tonight to evacuate passengers stranded at Dubai Airport. According to the airline, the wide-body flight was scheduled to depart at 11 p.m., carrying stranded Nepali travelers from Kathmandu to Dubai and returning with passengers back home. Flight RA230 is scheduled to land in Kathmandu at 4:10 a.m. Thursday morning. This marks the airline's first special flight to Dubai in 12 days since the outbreak of the conflict between the US and Iran. Executive Director Amritman Shrestha confirmed that priority boarding will follow a first-come, first-served basis, with approximately 270 to 280 passengers expected to return tonight. The special flight is intended specifically for those who are unable to travel between February 28 and March 9. Passengers are requested to reconfirm their tickets before boarding, as per the airline's advisory. Air travel between Nepal and the West Asia region has partially resumed after a 12-day suspension. According to spokesperson Santushta Kumar Basnet of Trivandrum International Airport, some international airlines have restarted limited operations after closely monitoring the regional security situation. Flights had been suspended since February 28 due to safety concerns following the conflict involving Iran. Airlines including Air Arabia and Fly Dubai have now resumed partial services, while Himalaya Airlines has also begun limited flights to Dubai, carrying around 100 passengers daily. That wraps up our cover story of the day. In the other updates, Nepali Congress has decided to play a special and constructive role in the National Assembly. Speaking after a discussion today at the Parliamentary Party office in Singhdarbar with both incumbent and newly elected members, party leaders emphasized that as the largest party in the House, they will take on responsibilities in a new way. They added that the party will work actively and responsibly for the nation's interest and the people's sentiments, while also reviewing the unexpected results of the recent parliamentary elections and drawing necessary conclusions. Nepal's Supreme Court has ordered a full hearing on a petition challenging the Attorney General's decision to amend charge sheets filed against Rashtriya Swatantra Party Chair Ravi Lamichhane. A joint bench of Justices Sapana Pradhan Malla and Srikanta Paudel set the hearing for April 13. The petition was filed by senior advocate Dinesh Tripathi and others after the Attorney General decided to revise the charge sheets in cases registered in Kaski, Kathmandu, Rupandehi and Parsa, removing charges related to organized crime and money laundering. The petition argues that withdrawing such charges violates legal provisions and could undermine accountability in serious financial crime cases. In Kathmandu today, Dalit youth protested at Maiti Ghar Mandala demanding justice for 16-year-old Inisha Bika, who was raped and murdered in Surkhet. Protesters held placards reading "Seeking Justice for the Deceased." Inisha, originally from Gurvakot Municipality 6, Badakoli, and currently living in Birendranagar 1, was found unconscious last Saturday morning near Shahid Park in Janajagaran Community Forest. She was taken to Provincial Hospital Kalagaon, where doctors declared her dead. Her family filed a complaint with Surkhet District Police on the 25th, alleging gang rape. Police investigations confirmed she died after being raped, and 4 suspects have been arrested. The Nepal Oil Corporation has urged the public to purchase and use petroleum products and cooking gas only as necessary. In a statement issued today, the corporation requested households that normally consume 1 gas cylinder per month not to refill additional cylinders or store gas unnecessarily, and encouraged greater use of electricity as an alternative. The corporation also warned that legal action will be taken against those found hoarding gas cylinders, selling petroleum products at higher prices, or illegally marketing new cylinders. International news coming up next. For now, a recap of the headlines. Nepal government assures rescue of its citizens amid Middle East conflict. Nepal Airlines rescue flights begin tonight. Proportional representation vote results redraw House of Representatives landscape. RSP emerge as the largest party. Rashtriya Swatantra Party begins intensive internal consultations to chart course after sweeping election victory. UN General Assembly adopts Nepal proposed resolution to establish Global International Day of Well-being. International Energy Agency approves largest ever oil reserve release amid escalating Middle East tensions. And 7 members of Iranian women's football team granted protection visas after tournament in Australia. Iran's ambassador to the United Nations has accused the US and Israel of targeting civilian infrastructure during recent military strikes. Speaking to reporters in New York, Ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani said airstrikes hit fuel storage facilities and other sites in Tehran and several cities, releasing hazardous pollutants into the atmosphere.
It is deeply regrettable that Security Council continues to remain silent. The Council is turning a blind eye to this grave violation despite its primary responsibility under the UN Charter to maintain international peace and security. Instead, some Council members are attempting to reverse the roles and position of victims and aggressors.
Israeli strikes and evacuation orders have forced more than 100,000 people to flee their homes in Lebanon within a single day, the UN has said. The figure is part of a larger displacement of 700,000 people across the country in just over a week amid escalating conflict in the Middle East. Carolina Lindholm-Billing, UNHCR's Lebanon representative, told a press briefing in Geneva that lives have been upended on a massive scale.
What we see here is that lives have been upended on a massive scale. I mean, according to the Lebanese authorities, as of today, more than 667,000 people in Lebanon have now registered on the government's online platform as displaced. And this is an increase of 100,000 in just one day, and the numbers continue to rise.
China has concluded the fourth session of the 14th National Committee of Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, the country's top political advisory body. Delegates approved several key resolutions, including the work report of the CPP-CC Standing Committee and reports on the handling and review of proposals submitted by political advisors. CPP-CC Chairperson Wang Huning presided over the session and addressed the gathering. The body plays a central role in China's system of political consultation and multi-party cooperation under the leadership of the Communist Party. Thailand has welcomed the ranking of Bangkok as a top city in Asia for 2026, reinforcing the country's position as a major global tourism destination. The Thai capital secured the #1 spot in the Best Cities in Asia category of the Destin Asia Readers' Choice Awards, ahead of Tokyo and Singapore. The travel magazine cited Bangkok's unique blend of cultural heritage and modern urban life as key factors behind the ranking. Historic temples, luxury shopping malls, vibrant nightlife, and a globally recognized food scene all contribute to the city's appeal. Officials say the recognition highlights Bangkok's diverse travel experiences and the country's reputation for hospitality, often described as the land of smiles. Business news coming up next. After this short breather, stay with us.
Residents of the Gaza Strip are facing sharply rising prices for basic goods after Israel temporarily closed border crossings for security reasons. The United Nations said the closures created uncertainty over the availability of aid, services, and essential items. Israeli rights group Gisha reported that flour prices nearly quadrupled, while sugar, diapers, and cooking oil doubled in cost. Local shoppers in central Gaza told reporters they can no longer afford basic necessities and appealed for international assistance. Although a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has been in effect since October, intermittent attacks continue, and Gaza health officials report 649 deaths since the truce began. A Emmanuel Macron, France's president, is hosting around 40 world leaders in Paris for a summit focused on reviving civil nuclear energy. The meeting aims to position nuclear power as a cornerstone for energy sovereignty, particularly as the ongoing conflict in the Middle East exposes the risks of relying heavily on fossil fuels. France hopes the summit will accelerate international cooperation, share best practices, and support investments in safer and more sustainable nuclear technologies. Officials say nuclear energy is critical for meeting climate goals while ensuring stable electricity supplies across Europe and beyond. The event highlights growing global interest in diversifying energy sources amid geopolitical tensions and rising energy prices. China's aging population of 320 million is driving the rapid growth of the country's silver economy, a sector aimed at improving services and quality of life for senior citizens. Valued at around 7 trillion yuan, equivalent to $1 trillion, the silver economy is expected to grow to 30 trillion yuan, equivalent to $4.4 trillion, about 10% of GDP by 2035. Government plans over the next 5 years focus on expanding elderly care services, increasing pensions, and supporting products and services for seniors, including tourism and healthcare. The strategy also emphasizes long-term care insurance, rehabilitation, and assistance for vulnerable seniors, especially those living alone or with disabilities. Officials hope these measures, coupled with improvements in nursing capacity, will raise life expectancy to 80 and ensure higher quality, more accessible care for China's senior population. Dan Jorgensen, the European Union's energy chief, has urged member states to consider lowering taxes on electricity to help reduce consumer energy bills. Speaking at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, he said there is huge potential to ease costs if governments are able to cut energy taxes.
We have a very clear recommendation to the member states. If you are at all able to lower taxes on energy, especially on electricity, there is a huge potential. In average, the potential for energy bills in Europe would be a saving of 200 euros per year by lowering the taxes.
Jorgensen's comments come as global oil and gas prices rise due to tensions and conflict in the Middle East, raising concerns about higher energy bills across European Union countries.
And with that, we move on to sports update. Nepal is set to begin its campaign in the SAF Under-20 Championship against Bhutan on 23rd of March. According to the fixtures released by the South Asian Football Federation, the tournament will be held in Male, the capital of Maldives, from 23rd of March to 3rd of April. Nepal, the defending runners-up, are placed in Group A alongside host Maldives, Sri Lanka and Bhutan. Nepal will face Sri Lanka on March 25 and conclude the group stage against Maldives on the 27th. Now the weather updates, first from across Nepal and then around the world. Before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Nepal government assures rescue of its citizens amid Middle East conflict. Nepal Airlines rescue flights begin tonight. Proportional representation vote results redraw House of Representatives landscape. RSP emerge as the largest party. Rashtriya Swatantra Party begins intensive internal consultations to chart course after sweeping election victory. UN General Assembly adopts Nepal proposed resolution to establish Global International Day of Well-being. International Energy Agency approves largest ever oil reserve release amid escalating Middle East tensions. And 7 members of Iranian women's football team granted protection visas after tournament in Australia. And that brings us to the end of this edition of News Hour. Do join us through our social media pages and get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Good night.